Evening, everyone. Welcome to our May 22nd Executive Committee meeting. Community Board of Church CB11. This meeting is officially called to order at 6:34 p.m. Tonight we're joined by District Manager Angel Mescain. Before we jump into the ground rules, I just want rules. One, no one may still granted the floor. Two, CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand. And you can find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty. Members should not engage in back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. Three, the chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand. Four, when a member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so you can speak. Five, please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Thank you.
Present. Jose Altamirano. Present. Dan Brina.
Present.
Diaz. Jessica Elliott. Elso Rama. Asher Rodriguez. Xavier Santiago.
Present.
Isaac Scott.
Present.
Anne-Marie Vasquez. Jason Villanueva.
Present.
Michelle Wilcher Clement.
She's on her way. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. If there are no objections, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Members, if you wish to object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand. Distributed ahead of time. If there are no objections, we'll adopt the minutes from that meeting. Yes?
I'm objecting to section I. The chicken boom failed due to confusion among some members. A subsequent motion was made. That's incorrect. Into the video, a vote was taken on the motion regarding board member removal, 45-40. Adem makes a question about the vote in the process while Angel 45-55.
This is, a little postal on there, right?
Go ahead, Xavier, we're good.
Could you promote me, please?
I just did.
I did.
That's opening the door and names. Ding ding.
Okay, where do you want me to pick up, Angel?
So Isaac had some comments, maybe you can summarize real quick and then you can pick them up.
Say that one more.
Can you just re-summarize just what you said?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
All right,
So no, we were at the point where I made an objection to the minutes for April's meeting. The current minutes reflect that a vote was held and it failed due to confusion. But okay, so I do actually want to read the timestamps on the record. 45 minutes into the video, a vote is taken on the motion regarding the board member. This is the first motion. 45:40, Adem asks a question about the vote and the process while Angel is counting the votes. 45:55, Anne Marie asks a question for clarification on the abstentions. 46:25, Angel reads the results of the vote out loud, which are 4 yes, 3 no, 2 abstain. Angel confirms the vote did not carry, and then at 46:31, the chair himself states that the motion does not pass and confirms that it will not move out of executive committee. From there, 47:10 is when Adem makes a new motion. And so I just wanted the record to reflect that one motion did fully get voted on and it did not pass. So according to parliamentary procedure, it should have been settled. And I just want the records to reflect that 2 votes were taken on the same matter. That was it.
Jessica?
I guess building off of Isaac's comments, the minutes from the last 2 meetings reflect the opinions of a single individual. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to go through and rewrite each month's meeting in their entirety. Otherwise, I would have offered specific changes. I don't believe that there are specific changes that can be made without rewriting the entire documents. As an example, the March meeting minutes note the chair specific statements 6 times. We did not approve March meetings last month. Therefore, we should be approving March and April this month. Because the March meetings were submitted less than 24 hours before this meeting last month. So as an example, the March meeting minutes note the chair's specific statements 6 times. The chair explained, the chair noted, while noting no other contributing member of the executive meeting, their names or specific input. I ask that we deny the approval of these 2 months of minutes, and additionally, I would like it reflected in the March, April, and May meeting minutes that there has been disagreement with the minutes as written for these reasons. I ask we take a roll call vote on approving the meeting minutes for the last 2 months, if we do approve it.
Okay, is there a motion to not approve?
Motion
Is there
to
a second?
motion. Oh, it was there. I'm sorry. I don't.
Is there a second?
Is that a motion?
A motion to not approve March and April meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any debate on the matter?
It's because of the confusion and stuff, right? That's what we're.
Well, you can say, I don't want to say that because I didn't state the word confusion. So I want to just be, I think that it just doesn't represent the 2 votes that actually took place for me for March. That was what I brought up. And
We disagree.
It's April.
And for me, it was,
she mentioned in March.
yeah, it was just the reflection of only one single perspective from the meeting.
Okay. All right.
Is there any debate on the matter? Adem? Then no. All right, roll call.
Jose Altamirano,
We are saying no to the minutes, so I just want to be clear.
Yes.
Yes,
we're
the motion
saying
is to not approve
to
the
not
meeting.
approve the minutes.
So a yes would
So
be
they can get revised.
a no to the minutes.
And what happens if we don't approve the minutes?
Yes,
If
they're
approved, they
revised.
go back to be redrafted.
Yeah, just gonna give you track.
And a yes vote would mean that
These will be approved as they
these
are
would
written.
be approved as they're written.
No, it is a vote not to approve, so a yes would affirm the no. So in other words, if you're saying, I don't want to approve, and you say you vote aye, it means you're voting for that motion, not to approve. No means I don't, it does not, you're not approving that motion.
Yes, which means you are approving the minutes as they are.
Or not necessarily.
No, there would be a
And then
separate
you're
motion
saying
to
it's
approve.
still
A separate motion, so, okay, just one, thank you for that clarity.
And then who rewrites the minutes after
I
that?
will continue working on it.
The chair writes them. It's in law, the chair writes it.
Who's going to abstain?
Adem,
Abstain.
Jessica,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yeah.
Asher,
Yeah, that's fine.
Xavier,
Abstain.
Isaac,
Yes,
Jason Villanueva,
Abstain.
Michelle,
No,
motion does not carry.
Is there a motion with the amendments that Isaac offered and to reflect the two votes that were carried out from the committee for the May meeting? Not the May meeting, the April, with those amendments.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, by Nelson, is there a second?
I want to make sure that this.
yeah, what's the motion?
Yeah.
To approve the April minutes with your
Amendments
amendments,
on,
the edits.
And I would like to make a friendly amendment.
Okay.
That it be noted on all 3 minutes from April, March, and May, that there was disagreement on the meeting minutes.
Okay, we're voting expressly just on the April meeting. March, we can bring up at a separate issue, but we're only dealing with April minutes.
where we are now, we waiting for a second?
So there's a second, is there any debate?
I just want to make sure,
Can I ask a question? After you're done? Go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure that, yes means that we accept the minutes as it is,
With the amendment that was offered by Isaac.
and no means that we will go back to you rewriting it.
Correct.
Same for abstention. Abstention's a no too, just so you know.
Yeah, just to be clear, my, we don't, I'm fine with the amendment to that section. That was the only section I was mentioning in our, it just doesn't reflect that there was actually 2 votes. So if that's, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Chair, for discussion, I don't disagree with the specifics of concern, but the process is right in line with parliamentary procedure where the board is to take a position and an action on an item. A motion was made, it failed, and then another motion happened. I can't speak or opine on the specifics of the act, but it is standard practice that if a vote fails or a motion fails, forgive me, that another motion be made to rectify the situation or send it back to committee. In that particular instance, there was no committee, right, from what I understand. As far as for the minutes are concerned,
This was a committee.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what committee are you gonna send it back to from executive? We're at executive. So if you read the law, there's an opportunity for the committee to have created an attendance task force, something to that. Don't quote me on the exact specific words, but if you would have created that, maybe a lot of this, again, it's my position, my perspective in operating and leading meetings for over 8 years. So I don't disagree that it was a very heated discussion and there was a lot of, flavorful motivation. But I didn't see an issue with the procedure of parliamentary procedure. I did see an issue of, as we would say in the bylaws of becoming of a board member. There was just certain things that we should have probably, and Angel said it, and I've said it, and I'll say it for myself. There's times that we just gotta, you don't got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all, or wait, or, kind of just, maybe we should have some more cocktails after the meetings or something so we could build and bond. But
So
that's my
is there-
opinion.
So we're moving into debate.
Yeah, I was having a discussion, which is the right as far as parliamentary procedure is concerned.
Okay, go ahead, Isaac and then Michelle.
No, I'm not ready, I'm sorry. I'm flexing, I'm not.
Michelle.
My point, concern was that Adem, who raised the point to, can I make another motion, asked if this was okay and part of parliamentary rules. And it was decided that it was, and then it went forward. So there was no hidden agenda, there was no, oh, well, I'm gonna do this out
That's
of
not the point.
spite of anything. This is my point of view. So I appreciate no in-betweens when I'm giving my point of view. And so the hostility that brewed over this, to me, does not make any sense.
We should have tabled it.
And I voted the way that I wanted to, and I feel that everybody voted the way that they wanted to. And that is my piece.
Isaac?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
I'm sorry, I just missed who made the motion and seconded for this one.
Isaac and adjustment.
No,
sorry.
Nilsson made the motion.
That's
Michelle.
Xavier, can you tell me?
Yes,
I'm sorry,
Nilsson
Mr.
and
Smith.
Michelle.
Thank you, sorry, I was distracted.
Okay.
Nilsson.
Isaac?
The point is not the point of that, them acts because, so to go there with you, I don't personally think, Adem did anything he shouldn't have done. I mean, you know, none of that. I think even the expression of the frustration of the abstaining, I think all of that was rightfully so.
It's passion.
It's passion. The issue was that, and this is what I've learned in my research, that the chair was not to entertain the same exact motion twice. Once a motion passes or fails, it's considered settled. So you have to reintroduce the motion with some sort of, there should be some change to it or you can't just, if that's the case, then every time something doesn't pass, you can just bring it right back up.
So.
And that was.
So I'll speak the parliamentary procedure, which is why we brought this, and I have a little presentation, which we'll do in a truncated form. You have custom, and our custom has, and we've seen this during Nelson's time when she was chair, where there was confusion or there were people talking over, and it was a very heated moment. I'll grant everyone that, where people have then represented the motion without using the terms that are typically used in parliamentary procedure. That has happened in the past. We've seen it happen for the past 10, 15 years, which is why I'd like us to move forward with actually adopting more formal language to cure that problem for the future. So that was part of it.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate that.
But it was the custom that was leading the day.
It would have been good to hear you say that on the record, and that be the reason that the motion was reintroduced. That wasn't communicated, that's communicated after the fact. During the fact, a motion was settled. It should have been settled and it was allowed to be entertained again, and that was the issue that was being brought up. So I understand the custom that made and that we may want to go with in the future, but that should have been what was brought up for the reason at that time, not just allowing it because, you know, it wasn't that much of a, I listened to the recording, it wasn't that much back and forth and confusion for a person not to know. And that's why I say I don't disagree with how frustrated the dem was, because we sat and had a clear conversation and everyone should have been clear on it. You know, so I did, that's why I don't knock his frustration. It was just the process that I felt was allowed to take place. So that's the clarification.
Yeah, so,
it's not
about when it comes with custom, you know, it's the understanding of the body that it's the custom going forward it down, and then Jess.
Thank you, Isaac. I respect what you're saying. And honestly, once I realized that it was just a procedure and that the procedure wasn't conducted correctly, I'm totally okay with everything that's been said. And I actually wish now that I just hadn't talked about this at full board at all, but I think I'm happy to like put this behind us. And since the procedure wasn't carried out correctly, it wasn't carried out correctly. So, you know, all good. Thank you. And I appreciate you all explaining it clearly. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Jess?
Thank you. For all of us, I think we all need to take a step back and listen a little bit more closely to each other. These comments are not about a criticism of anyone on this board. It's a criticism of these minutes, which are unclear they're biased, and they don't accurately represent what happened in our meetings. So the problem isn't what happened, it's how it's being portrayed in the documented minutes for these meetings. They are inaccurate, in my opinion. I think that this helps it become more accurate. And as it relates to the March meeting minutes, I think it's heavily biased without anybody else's, statements other than, a single perspective. That's what I have an issue with these meetings.
Jose?
Just to piggyback on Jason, I am not a parliamentarian, so I respect the research and everything else. I was simply speaking on how we do things in this board for the many, many years that I've been here. The customs that we have, particularly this executive board, which consistently does action items, right? I understand the confusion later where if you are mentioning parliamentarian rules, then there's a conflict, 100%. But I'm basing it on how we've always done it. And our position has always been to take a position, regardless of the position. Never leave something undone. You take that in pretty much every instance. So in that sense, I agree with you. Like, this is how we've always done it. This is my argument. I understand that now there's this fracture and there's an issue, and I understand like mentioning these parliamentarian books and carrying this little red book around causes confusion. So then, then it leaves it open to this, because had it been said, this is our custom, which is our custom, and we're all aware of this. But so I understand that whole, and mind you, this individual was not really, but I understand the point is not whether they're here or not. The point is the process, which I agree with you 100%. And I guess we should then in the future discuss how we're going to do this. If we're going to be parliamentary strict to this little red book, or if we're going to follow our customs. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with our customs. Our customs are take a position, make sure that we do not leave here without taking a position. With a dean, it makes no difference. But we should always, because we learned that through licenses many years ago. Sometimes they didn't take a position. If you don't take a position, then that person still gets a license because you didn't take a position. Happened to us recently in public safety with DLT. City agencies take advantage of it too. So they mowed us along on 3rd Avenue, and then when it was time to take a position, they were like, "We're already starting construction. We ripped up the road already." So
I like, may I add? I was just calling you pastor every day. I've been calling everybody pastor today. To solutions, I definitely think that I love what the bylaws committee is proposing with the oversight committee, and I wish I will reflect this to, I know that one of the chairs is here, and I'll speak to the other co-chair. I do recommend that something relative to attendance not only necessarily be the responsibility of staff, executive, it's really the secretaries, right? But we've been challenged over the last 8 years with a viable and functioning secretary role. So I say all that to say this, that we should put that maybe in oversight. So it's a standing conversation somewhere. So the vetting is happening, and more importantly, the enforcement, right? Because that's to Jose's point, we want to take actions because we're executives, so we want to execute. But in all actuality, sometimes, to Jessica's standpoint, we got to take a step back and evaluate the field and see what we're doing. The Knicks should have did that last night, right? So needless to say, they were up by 14. Wow. So that you see, I mean, to those that don't watch, the point is like, just because you're ahead doesn't mean you got it. So we always got to take a step back, reevaluate everybody's questions, concerns. Personally, there was a lot of hostility in the last few meetings. And I think at that stage, it's just process is already there. It's in our law. We have to execute. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, there's too much going on. Adjourned, we'll table this meeting. We'll have another discussion next month, or we'll do a follow-up meeting after some people are being consoled, because there was a lot of emotion on the floor, right? And needless to say, when us beings become emotional, it's a lot more challenging to execute logically, right? And needless to say, I thought everything that was being done appeared correctly, but there is conversations that need to happen with our cultural practice, because with all due respect, Jose, we're getting old. So our culture or our generational standard of practice is going to change for those that are so much more vibrant as displayed in the emails as of late, so.
Can I just one
More
more
on
thing? Thank you, Jason, for sharing everything you said. And you too, Jose. Can we just also, as we continue to sort of use this language and have this idea of we have customs, and if those customs are not in line with because some folks are looking at our bylaws and our responsibilities, and that's the law to them. So when we say customs, those are not written, those are practices. And I think that we have to tread the balance lightly between them, but also be clear on them and also be transparent about, hey, this is a custom. It's not, so that if it's called out, it doesn't have to be defended and argued like it's law. It's actually just a custom, and I think, so I guess that's what I'm saying. If we're going to, and to Jose's point, I don't disagree with some of the things we do. I like the idea of taking a position on things. But there are some customs we have that I disagree with. So I think we could, if we could just get better with that. But I think I do agree with the emotional tension and all of that stuff in meetings before.
There's no more debate. We'll take a roll call on the minutes with those amendments. Please, Angel.
Jose,
Yes.
Madame,
Yes.
Jessica,
No.
Nelson,
Yes.
Asher,
Yes.
Xavier,
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes, I'm sorry. I should have asked that before.
It's
It's just
Your
April.
motion.
It's your motion.
No,
just
it's
April.
It's your recommendation.
But you can vote against it. I've seen that.
I know I don't want to do that. This is
I'm
just
sorry.
for April.
This is just for April.
Okay, that's okay.
To add
Yes,
your piece.
yes, to
Yes.
make the, yes, just want to make sure, yes.
Jason,
Abstain.
Michelle,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Next, we'll move on to announcements. Are there any announcements from the body?
March.
Can we, I'm sorry. Are we not going to address March meeting minutes?
March has not been edited yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was going to do that.
Gotcha.
Not have time to do that.
Gotcha, no problem.
I will present it to the body with more than advance time for Jim. Well, thank you for your notes.
Thank you, sir.
Announcements.
Oh, I got an announcement. We got an event this Saturday, on 115th Street. I was about to it's so crazy, but, it's good. We got at least a little more than 20 organizations participating and doing art and wellness. There'll be a lot of street activities out there. We'll be working with the garden, so, we'll have access to the garden. So there'll be a lot going on, but we'll be out there from noon to 5 p.m. On Saturday, this Saturday, so 2 days, the day after tomorrow, Saturday. So if you have time or you're around, come through, say hi. But it's just a community event. It's not, we're just gonna be out there chilling. But hopefully this is like a kickoff event for Open Street. So we're trying to do this we'll do it 6 Fridays in the summer. So this is a Saturday event, but the future ones will be Friday.
Yes.
And,
No, I just wanted to clarify, so your organization with others will continue doing it each Friday?
Yes, so,
Yeah.
okay, so you know what, I'm sorry, thank you, you know what, thank you, Nelson, for that question, because it's bigger than just the street event. So we started this, the reason that we even started to do this art and wellness event was because I'm in the choral program now, and we had to do a change project. And the change project, thank you, that I proposed was to create the framework for the solution center we are building in the church. So in the church, we have a whole 4,000 square feet of straight unrenovated space that hasn't been used in
It's like an attic.
10, it's not an attic, it's a second floor that the elder folk, they just stopped using it because the elevator got cut off, so they didn't use it. So when Reverend James got there a few years ago, I came about a year after that, but we've been actively working to clear the space. So what I proposed in my change project was to begin to activate the community and the block as a sort of framework for how we will activate the space upstairs. So working in this solution-driven way in the community, being out there, starting outside and letting them know, hey, we'll be this is what we'll be doing inside. So that's the bigger, thank you for that question, because the bigger vision is the solution center, which is a community, it will be for community-based organizations, for local artists. Imagine it like we're not selling our building to in development and we're using it for community space. So that's what we're doing. So we'll be, some of it will be rental space, some of it will just be community space for you to use. But it's a lot of space. So we want to have, it's a theater going to be in there, a music studio, art rooms and stuff like that. So young people will be able to come up there free of charge to do whatever they want to do.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Your question or announcement?
A comment, on, at public safety and transportation, there are images of what you just spoke about. And so if you want to see further what the space looks like,
Oh, yeah.
it's,
Yes, I did a full presentation at what March? It was March. It was not March. It was March.
it was March, right?
Yes, it was March. So March meeting, if you look, we did a full presentation on it, so you can see
You can see
the
images.
space and all of that. And I'm happy to show you some pictures.
Where's the location?
Right, 116th in Madison. Right, we the church on the corner that you probably pass all the time.
Yeah, I know which one it is. Not in.
Right, once on the corner, right, 116th in Madison.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's like, I see this all the time.
I just want to continue collaboration. So PLC on 125th, the Positive Learning Center, we got in and out, teenagers, young men, adults. We've been serving the 5 boroughs before I was born. I say that to say this, so we have young able bodies,
Yes,
been
we need it.
incarcerated or not incarcerated, educated, not educated.
Yeah.
We deal with all walks of life, and if there's any participation that my organization could be to assist your space, we would love to, because I know a lot of the young people in that are currently in my organization are seeking that, that.
If you have young people that want to do things like music, digital arts,
Exactly.
send them down.
Okay.
Because that's, one thing I'm trying to do now is actively get a music teacher in there, because I'm getting donations of music equipment, and I'm not a musician. I'm a visual artist, so I got a whole studio space with nothing in it. Sorry.
Yeah. You have one right here at the table.
Who? Oh, yeah, I got it. Yeah, oh, Ash, yes. I was throwing that out there.
Dating you.
Okay, Dave,
Announcements?
yes, announcements. And I've got one that I'm gonna move us along.
I have an announcement.
Yes, go ahead, Debbie.
The Friends of Our Park Alliance, the park is on 120th Street between Lexington and Third, in partnership with the People's Church and some other folks. We're actually organizing our 4th Gay Pride event. And it's the first Saturday in June is the East Harlem Gay Pride event. So we're gonna have some events there. There's gonna be people speaking and shouting out and stuff like that. It's unfortunately the same day as the Third Avenue, the Third Avenue Festival. So it's gonna be a little crazy. But, I think it's also an opportunity to insert, the LGBTQIA community and the voice and celebrate that as well. So this is our 4th year. In the past, we've had Asher perform, we've had other people, so we're excited about it. So just pass by.
You have a recording?
Angel?
No one wants to see that.
Debbie, has it been announced at the Parks Committee that out in the park, the park, got selected for the Community Parks Initiative?
Yes, so that's the other announcement. The other announcement is that the Friends of Harlem Art Park has also, it's been announced that we are going to get $4 million for infrastructure development, not programs, infrastructure development,
Congratulations.
with the goal to bring people into the park. And then Ronald McNair is getting $8 million, the playground. So what we're gonna be doing over the summer is collecting feedback and information on what we wanna see in the park that promotes art, creativity, imagination, and things like that, because $4 million can go really quick. Just if you wanna take back the fence down in the back. Yeah. The fence alone will eat up the budget.
Don't do a bathroom, that'll be a
But the thing is that when the Friends of Our Park Alliance, we are clear on our position that we do not want any exercise equipment, because you have Marcus Garvey Park and you have $8 million development down, two blocks down, and we do not want any playground. This park is for creativity, imagination, and kind of getting people in the zone. So it's like, I've been doing some research, going to different parks where I went to the little island and they have like things where you can stand and make sound, things like that. So we want to figure out a way to communicate that to the Parks Department so that it's called Harlem Art Park, you know what I mean? So how do you, art and creativity and imagination and stuff like that, so.
Thank you, Debbie, that's a great announcement. We were supposed to have the 9, 10, 11, and 12 board get together, but they could not find a space to accommodate us. So they're gonna push into June and hopefully get it done before the summer recess. So stay tuned for that. We also have Sunday, June 8th is the National Puerto Rican Day Parade. The day before is the 116th Street Festival.
Yep.
So if you wish to march with the Borough President's contingent or any of the others, please, you'll be receiving emails from Port Video. Yes, Asher.
Also on Randall's, I
Who
think
knows to go
it's
for
like
that?
the third weekend in June, they have like a music punk festival that's free and open to the public. So I think it's June 14th. I might be wrong. Is it
Or
the 8th?
also the banquetas that are coming up on the 14th, they're gonna be kicking off their salsa Saturdays. So, look to see you all over there dancing a little bit, cutting a rug. And see if you can keep up with the old timers.
Lot of stuff happening.
Wonderful, that concludes announcements. We're gonna move into presentations and discussions, and I'm gonna keep this brief.
Can I correct myself?
Yes,
It's the punk festival's 8th, it was 14th last year.
8th, June 8th, Punk Festival.
It's a punk music festival, it's
So,
like free,
what,
all ages.
Sunday,
What day is that?
that's Sunday.
This Sunday?
No.
It's the same as
June
Puerto
8th.
Rican parade, but it goes from 11 to 8. I went to all 3
It was
classes.
5 years.
Yeah,
It won't be no
I'm
more.
gonna my kid in that.
5 more years will be
I don't
done.
have that
No
energy
problem.
anymore.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay,
I know all about that. Festival, so.
all right, we're gonna move, Andrew, would you
Yes,
share my screen?
You should be able to kick me off, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure, you should be able to.
Hold on just a second. Okay. I'm gonna keep this brief because we've also printed this up with right here, we have the Guide to Parliamentary Procedure for New York City Community Boards. This is part of our resources. It's based off of Robert's Rules of Order, to distill it, to make it simpler. What I've done here, this is a very simple slide deck. We're just gonna go through quickly and then, I can distribute it to everyone. So this is based off of a lot of this work that was done here and that's been updated, they use the most current edition, which is the 12th edition. As you noted when we had our presentation in March, it should conflict with state and local law, which is why you'll see differences in the way we vote versus the way other organizations in parliamentary procedure requiring, say, 2/3 vote to move a particular motion. Again, it's here to limit and guide and protect the individual. It's not that the decision you make must be correct, but each decision you must make can be correctly made. A lot of this we know why we use parliamentary procedure, facilitate transaction of business, promote cooperation and harmony, ensure that all members have equal rights, privileges, and obligations, ensure the majority has the right to decide, but the minority has rights which must be protected as well. Some of the things, because we're going to be going into, we're going to be going in with 15 new board members this coming cycle, with about half being midterm and the rest being full term. It's to make sure we kind of hit the ground running in sync, working together. So that, again, to help it move smoothly through the business. Obviously, we know about a quorum. We also know that the chair can vote if it will affect the outcome, and the community boards, the chair his vote or her vote must be recorded. Again, making sure not to talk over, wait till you recognize. These are just some of the things that we can help one another cooperate. Again, in the quorum, we all know a lot of this. Obviously, we know if we don't have quorum, we adjourn. If we have, for example, our bylaws, if something in this parliamentary procedure guide differs, our bylaws will rule that day if it doesn't speak to it. So we don't typically, and again, getting to custom, typically, larger meetings, someone will stand when they want to be recognized. The meeting, the chair will have, we don't do that. Our custom is more casual. The meeting's just called to order, it's given the time. We approve the minutes, same with the adjourning. So pretty straightforward. When a member wishes to rise, again, you'll see in larger organizations will actually stand. If you see union memberships who observe parliamentary procedure, they'll say like Madam President or Chairperson, they wait to be recognized, and then they'll state whatever the motion is. I move that X, Y, and Z. There's a second. In our instance, when we have full board in our work, all of those motions that get presented, and this is the nuance for us, is that every single action, so let's say Youth and Education has a letter of support. That's an actual motion already on the floor before the assembly, so it has to be treated as such, where it doesn't need a second. We just go right into, is there any debate on the question? So it's just something that, I'd like us to get more consistent for. When Angel and I spoke earlier, we were talking about licenses and permits and how that plays out. They vote on them individually, then we bundle them, which is also acceptable. A practice that we can adopt custom, when we bundle everything, we have a first and a second in that instance because it is becoming a new main motion. In that instance, what we may observe going forward is like, are there any objections to these items? Because oftentimes what we've heard is when we vote, all those in favor, all those against or abstention, all of a sudden we have a bunch of hands pop up for like number 7 and number 13, et cetera, and so on. So whatever we decide to do as a custom with that particular exercise, we just need to make sure we're consistent. Okay. Again, the chair states the motion. As we've demonstrated tonight, what those motions are, I move to paint the office green, right? So say Isaac Scott says, I move to use the rest of the money to paint the office green. It gets stated to make sure it's clear. Sometimes there's a little back and forth to make sure the language is clear and restating the motion, which is why it's important for us not to talk over each other. Once it's stated and is seconded, then it goes before debate and calls the question. We're calling the question. If there's no debate, we can just immediately go to a vote. So, or if there's no further discussion. Okay. Again, this is an example here, normal parliamentary procedure where it requires a 2/3 vote. Per our laws, we only need a simple majority. So saying all those in favor, all those are against, right? The motion is carried, the motion is lost. Other organizations, per Robert's Rules of Order, they have that 2/3 majority that's necessary. Ours is different because we have to subscribe to state and city law.
I have a point of clarification. So it's half plus one, right? But there is an item in our law that calls for 2/3, right?
Correct.
Can we state that for the record?
Yes, and that's where we get to where if there is, go on, Angel, you want to?
No, I was gonna let you say yes, and then if I needed to say anything, then I would say something.
The answer is yes. If our bylaws speak to it, yes, Angel.
So our bylaws do speak to it, but they're incorrect.
Okay.
So it's one of these situations where I don't know who wrote the 2/3 or when, but it's just kind of survived and become understood, but it's technically wrong. Every vote of the community board is a majority vote, simply. So that should be struck like immediately, because it's wrong.
Got it.
That doesn't need an amendment either, it just should be struck.
Yeah, if it's against the law, it's against the law.
Yeah, and to be honest, I've been going all these years and just taking it as fact. I never checked it, and recently it was brought to my attention by one of your board member colleagues. They showed me in the charter where it says it.
Yeah, because we're not governing, we're advisory, right?
No, that's not
Well,
the
it's-
reason,
it's-
but yeah, but it only needs to.
We're governed by the same laws as other elected bodies. So when it comes to voting.
I would agree with that.
So again, when we go to speak, you have to be recognized. Whoever, so in the case of Youth and Education was presenting a letter, they would be the ones speaking on the motion. They would be the first to speak if there's any debate. Ideally, we would observe going forward, those that are for and those that are against would be able to speak in the debate. And why they're for or against it. If they're saying, I support this funding for, X amount of dollars for PS whatever, and I think it'll be a great investment, and we move, that's why I'm supporting this. The next person can say I'm against it because, I think they had a lot of fiscal waste last year. I don't know if it's going to be the appropriate use of funds. Again, going back and forth, hearing those that are for and against. And one of the nuanced things too is that when you go through this process, all those that have spoken, you have to go through everyone who has spoken before you go back to anyone who may want to speak on the issue again, just out of courtesy. Main motions, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. A lot of this you've seen, it is in your packet. I really hope you will review it and we can discuss it for next time. You have your main motions, motions that bring a question again before the assembly, incidental motions, subsidiary motions, privileged motions, orders of pending motions, all right? Privileged motions, subsidiary, incidental, which are non-ranked. You'll see some of these in here, the ranked motions in your packet. Again, you know, privileged motions don't relate to business. They relate to the rights and privileges to the assembly or to its members, and they're not debatable. So what's to fix the time to which to adjourn. So if people are like, we have to leave because X, Y, and Z, you know, you could do that to adjourn, to recess, to rise to a question of privilege, to call for the order of the day. And what the order of the day is when we have our agenda, if things get off track from being an order of the day, like what we've agreed to as an agenda. So other issues like, you know, we have here assisting, treating, disposing of my motion, all required second, debatable. It does depend. Again, these 2/3 do not apply to us. But the most widely used vernacular is amend. Subsidiary motions, to table, to call the question, to limit or extend debate, to postpone to indefinite time, to refer to a committee, to amend, or postpone indefinitely. They speak more about it in here. And again, this is based off of RROR, but I'd like us to get more into the custom of calling it parliamentary procedure. Incidental to pending motions or business at hand. You know, these are again not debatable. To suspend the rules, to withdraw a motion, to rise to a point of order, to call for a division of the question. You know, you're requesting a point of something, a point of information, right? A point of information. Board members can declare a point of order, point of information, point of inquiry, a point of personal privilege. Point of order, right, draws attention to a breach of rules, improper procedure, breaching of established practices, etc. Point of information, a member may need to bring up an additional point or additional information in the form of a non-debatable statement so that the other members can make fully informed votes. For example, was it 50,000 the school was asked? I'm sorry, I missed you. Was it 50,000 or 15,000? I didn't hear, Chair. And the motion maker can, you know, in this case, being the chair of youth and education, no, it was 50,000. That's an example of a point of information. Okay. Point of inquiry, again, clarification to make for better voting decisions. Point of personal privilege. A member may use a point of personal privilege to address the physical comfort, the settings such as temperature and noise. Members may also use it to address the accuracy of published reports or the accuracies of members' conduct. Or if, say, people are talking over each other, people are yelling, and they can't be heard, they would raise and say, I raise a point of privilege. I can't hear everyone are talking in the background. Yeah, we don't need to cover bring a question again before the House. We can cover that next time. Good. Again, the motions, we're pretty accustomed to doing this at the committee level. We tend to have a discussion and then entertain a motion. So we kind of do it in reverse culturally. That's our custom, is at the committee level, we reverse that. We debate it, we discuss it, and then we take the position. What I'd like us to do, especially it's important for all the new board members and all of us to be in line as leaders, is to start implementing this process as best we can do at the committee level, inchworming it along so that way we become, as they get integrated in September, it will become rote for them. Okay, so again, the main motions, you know, you can't have another motion already on the table. You got to deal with them one at a time. Only one motion on the floor at any time requires a second. It's debatable. Approved by the majority of vote, unless some provision of bylaws require a different vote. Amendments, right? We talk about friendly amendments. We kind of dealt with that in the past and how we do it. It is clarified a little bit more here, but you typically would have the primary amendment and then a secondary amendment. And this guide right here has some great examples, especially dealing with the Department of Sanitation. And you vote in reverse order. So if you have a secondary, you get the secondary dealt with, and then you go to the primary. Examples here, insert inside the motion, add, strike out, or insert words only, substitute a paragraph, for example, but it has to be germane. It also, too, can't be something that would nullify the motion as well. Okay, here's the thing with friendly amendment. So, in regular parliamentary procedure, you know, we don't observe this. And the reviews and the recommendations from the city in parliamentary procedure with friendly amendments, we do. And so this is the way it would be accepted, and the way it actually gets married is in the second slide, right? If the chair ruling on it, right, so if we're a small body here, and it's like I make one friendly amendment on, you know, asking that we give them more, 50,000 to the school, if we give 60,000, we would think that'd be a great idea. In a case like that, if the chair of the committee over that body says, oh, I don't see that this is not a contentious issue, they can rule on it in that moment, which it speaks more thoroughly in this guide you've been given here. But again, it's, if anyone objects to it, then it would be debatable on the floor. But we typically don't do that, especially if it typically makes sense and doesn't seem objectionable. Okay, I'm sorry. Can you call the previous question? Again, these don't require 2/3 to pass. This is just something within parliamentary procedure. Refer to committee. We've done this when we refer back to committee. Okay, very straightforward. But we do it, our custom though, sometimes we say, you know.
If you're
we'll say
arguing
refer to
at that
committee,
point,
or
it's
we
not
will-
right.
You're right. Right, tabling the motion, lay on the table, you've heard that when we lay on the table, postpone indefinitely, postpone to a definite time. Intention, sometimes refer or commit, can also mean, you know, to the committee for further review. So you may hear that language, but what I ask everyone here is that we keep to a very consistent language. If we want to stick with, I move to send to the Public Safety and Transportation Committee, for example, to reconsider this, then that's how we do that. Just to keep it consistent, easy for new people coming on. Withdrawing a motion, right? So this is typically, it can be done before the chair has restated it. However, if there's a general unanimous consent of the body, that there's been enough vociferous debate, and they say, hey, you know, I think this is, you know, I don't, there's unanimous consent to send back and withdraw. We've done that before. Again, the maker would ask permission, as we've done in the past, and treat it as I said, unanimous consent. Adjourn, next to the highest ranking motion, you have fixed times, which adjourn is highest. It doesn't interrupt the speaker, requires a second, and it, you know, majority would rule. So again, but you can also adjourn if there's no other business pending or the time is reached on the adopted agenda. So sometimes you can say, hey, it's executive committee meeting. I agree, you know, I move to adjourn at 8 o'clock, whether the business is complete or not. And that's what can be done. If we hit 8 o'clock, then we leave.
Can I do that tonight?
Yeah.
Because we don't have no business. We have presentation.
We have a
No,
presentation.
no disrespect, right?
Let me finish the presentation. Typically, so Jason, typically.
You guys made that personal, it's not.
No.
personal.
So Jason, it's a good question, but typically you would do that when adopting the agenda, typically. But, so I'm gonna move this again quickly. Again, these don't apply.
I
This
don't
is
need
vote.
this training.
Out of order motions to suspend the bylaws, motion in conflict with the bylaws, any motion to conduct business if a quorum is not present, which we've heard before. Minutes, it's a record of what was done, not everything that was said. Secondary of the motion need not be recorded, corrected at any time mistake is discovered, even years later, the minutes are first line. Order of the day, we already know about this, right? Our orders of the day. And order of business, yes, we put old business, technically unfinished, but old business is fine. That is our custom here, but everything else you're aware of here. So there you go. That's it, yes, and there are gonna be some slight differences, hold on, between this, some slight ones, so, but yes, Angel.
All right, so this is where it comes into, and the conversation we had before, Xavier, and that we've had in the past, and with you guys in the past, about Robert's rules and parliamentary procedure and the way that we do it. So Robert's rules is an example of parliamentary procedure. There is a version of that that's specific to community boards, as Xavier explained. And then there's a version of that specific to each individual community board. Robert's Rules of Order is not a law in any way, shape, or form. We have to understand that. Neither is the guide. What is law, as far as we're concerned, is our bylaws, right? So if we are accustomed to doing, if we have agreed that we do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's how we do it. So long as everybody understands it's 1 through 6, and it isn't, well, today I'm only doing odd numbers. That's right out, right? That's where it gets screwed. But if we're understood, for example, the recording of a secondary of a motion, you go a million different places that says you don't have to do it. Well, here we do it. And the reason we do it is because we run into issues where people question whether or not that motion was valid. So let's say Jose makes a motion, Jason seconded, I recorded it. Later on, Jason loses his mind and says, I never said that. I'm like, it's right there, right? So that's why we do it. Same thing with present not voting. Technically, present not voting is incorrect, right? We're not supposed to record it. We do record it, right? Because we want to have a full record of everything that everyone said, right? Now, if you wanted to change it to, ineligible to vote or something instead, right? So let's say Nilsa has a conflict. Typically, we do present not votings for conflicts, right? I can't vote on this, I have a conflict. So we just note she was there, but she's not voting. So we do PNV. But if we want to be super strict to the rule and we really collectively decide that we're not going to do PNV anymore, I would still advise that we have a agreed to designation to record that Nilsa wasn't there, instead of it being a long sentence, like not eligible or whatever it is, that we just land on one thing. So I was giving those two examples as it's not in Roberts, it's not in the guide, but it is in what we do, and we do it for a reason, right? So it isn't costing anybody anything, but it's helping us in the long run. We have had occasions, like I gave the example with Jason, not with Jason specifically, with other people. I never said that. Oh, that motion, that's not, that motion was not valid because it wasn't, but I could just go back to the record, show right there, bam. As a matter of fact, you did. So thank you for taking.
No, thank you,
And if
Andrew.
I
And
may-
I don't, there's not a disagreement on that, and I appreciate you raising that. So, Jose?
So, presentation, I didn't see anything there that would have resolved the issue we had last month.
So,
So, I mean, it's a nice presentation, even though presentations you read off are never entertaining, but nothing there would have solved the situation that we had, which is kind of in between our customs and these Robert rules, right? So I think what better conversation, doesn't have to be tonight, please, but we do need to settle which direction we're going to, so that we're all in agreement. Because until last month, I thought we had a set stone. This is why I was so adamant. It wasn't, if she's there, she's not there, it's not the thing. It's like, these are the rules since I've been here, this is what we followed. So as much as this presentation, I mean, it just doesn't really do much to resolve anything that happened. I think we should more focus another time on making sure that we all understand how, and everyone is in agreement to how we're going to run things, whether it's customs or Robert's rules, because that, I didn't see, like.
So, Jose, thank you. We have to start with a foundation we all agree with, and that was giving the basic foundation to make sure we go forward together amicably. The next thing we will address, which is what I'm asking all the board members here, all the executives, is to read this cover to cover. And then I will also bring over Robert's Rules of Order as well, but I prefer, yes, Andrew.
No, I wasn't interrupting, I'll wait.
But I want you to have the background on this, and then we can deal with the custom. Like I said, it's like, I move to refer to committee as an example, right? There are other ways to state it in parliamentary procedure, and you'll see here. But again, when it comes to representing a motion that did not pass, there were multiple ways we could have addressed that, including points of information, point of order, and that language wasn't used as well. But nonetheless, this is something we're going to revisit, and I want everyone to refamiliarize themselves. Yes, Angel?
Yeah, I just left out one part from before to when you were reading out, like the process for handling motions. Just want to remind the members that in the meeting script for both the full board, which everybody knows, but also for the committees, it lays out all the steps taken from the guide to how to do a motion. So if you need a refresher, it's in there. For the committee, I didn't write down for the full board one. For the committee script, it's on page 4, and it just lays it out. First you do this, then you do this, then you do this. And I think to, the issue of, last month and the whole back and forth, from this position as an observer, what happens very often, I think I said it last month, is there's very, 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 very frequent crosstalk. And there's a lot of talk with not all the information included in the crosstalk. So if we were to keep our meetings orderly, then that's less likely to happen. And there's less likely for there to be confusion because something was misheard, and less likely to be confusion because something was misstated. So if you were to really adhere to having the orderly meeting, there's only one voice at a time, and then only the person that is being recognized speaking, that works. So long as the rules are clear, and so long as the rules are being adhered to. If they're being applied in a, wishy-washy way, that's going to invite people to say like, oh, no, that's not the way it's supposed to go. And now you have everybody talking over each other because the folks are not going to let stand something that's incorrect, right? So they're going to be more likely prone to speak up and say something, right? So it just introduces and encourages more confusion. So to the extent that you can be more orderly, more often, and more consistent, frankly, then I think that helps, both from the person facilitating the meeting, but also the people participating in the meeting. There has to be an understanding and there has to be consistency. If the members are misunderstanding because they're not paying attention, that's on them. If the person facilitating is feeding confusion because they're not being clear, then that's on them, right? So we have to agree that's 1 to 6, and then we ought to stay on those rules. Speaking of, I remember earlier, and I gave the example of Monopoly, right? Like when you go to a friend's, you can go to 10 different friends' houses and the rules are always different. But when you get there, before you start, the rules are laid out. At Angel's house, we do it like this, like, you don't get the 200 every time or whatever the hell it is. So you're understood. But if you've been playing the game for an hour and all of a sudden Jose says, oh, no, this time 200, then you're gonna get a bit upset, right? So long as you understand the rules when you get to the table, then typically you won't have an issue. It's when the nonsense comes in or the inconsistencies or the lack of clarity where you're kind of inviting people to be upset because it's not being done correctly.
Thank you, Randall. Melissa, you have a question?
I didn't have a question, I had a comment. Thank you for the presentation and thank you for the extra stuff. But when we use culture, we also have to realize that culture is not just what we do and how we've done it. It's also the way we allow ourselves and the members to act. We have meetings where older members are used to a culture of acting a certain way and doing things a certain way. And then we have new people coming in who don't know the culture. And so I think we have to be, explicit with how we have to do. It's not just the way we have the laws on paper and our bylaws and what we do, but we have to actually see, we have to really analyze the whole structure of our meetings, right? Like there are times when I watch a video of a meeting because I've had to go out because of my PhD, and then all of a sudden you don't see half the board sitting together. You see them, I've had comments of people saying that we look disjointed. So if we're gonna look at the culture, and we should, we do it a certain way, and the bylaws, reflect that, we also have to also change the culture of the meeting and how we talk to each other, because I can tell you, I have never seen us so, like, at this point where we're like nasty with each other. Like, where we're impatient with each other. And that's not my mouth. And I think anybody knows that I speak up when I need to speak up, and I speak up frequently. But it is actually uncomfortable for people in the outside environment to think that we can't function because we can't even communicate. And we have to change that culture as well, because if we don't find a way to treat each other with respect that says in our bylaws and make sure that we can learn how to reframe and re-say certain things so that if I hear something a certain way, I may immediately think it bad, but if you take the time to reframe it and restate it, then, and I don't mean you, I mean the person who's saying it, then you can say, okay, it's not that way. It's like when you write a message all in caps, you're thinking that people are yelling at you. But it may just be that they just didn't realize that they had the all caps. So, I just think that as we look at everything, that is something we need to, and if culture change is necessary among all of us, then that's something that as responsible adults, we should be able to do. We should not cut people off. We should not talk in a certain way to people because frankly, we were all appointed here to work for the community and to learn how to forge relationships so you can learn how to do things well. And if we need training in terms of how to deal with each other, then maybe that's something that we need to, explore because I've never seen this the way it is. And I've been here a long time and I just don't, I'm uncomfortable here.
Thank you, Vincent.
Mhm.
Yes, Andrew.
Sorry, I'm not wanting to belabor this, but I think I have to speak to that. I know that if words are expressed at volume and with intensity, it's easy to point to where the volume is coming from and what the intensity is coming from and say, well, that makes me uncomfortable. But you could be offended by someone speaking in a loud voice and you could be offended by someone speaking with a soft voice.
Of course.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes voices get elevated when people think they aren't being heard when they speak in their regular voice. And if we're going to talk about culture, then you have to talk about respect for each other
Mm-hmm.
and not just sounding like you're being respectful, but actually being respectful. And that's something that should be a given, but I'm sorry, isn't always the case. And it's when people have had enough that they say something. It's when they've had absolutely enough that they stomp their feet. And when they're way past it, that they raise their voice. There are steps before people yell. If we have members or staff that's just yelling right out the box, well, then that staff has to go. And that member probably has to go. But if members are finding themselves in a position where eventually they have to assert their voice, irrespective of the level of volume, it needs to be heard, especially if that's not their custom. And so I would advise the body to really reflect on how it conducts itself, and how it allows its colleagues to conduct themselves while they're doing this assessment of how we're treating each other, what our culture is, because it isn't just the noise, right? There's injury being caused in silence, and that's why I think some people may be raising their voice, right? I raised my hand, and I appreciate being recognized and being allowed to speak. I don't speak to hear myself talk. I try to focus all my comments on trying to be helpful, and sometimes I'm a bit more assertive when it just seems like the message is not getting through. And I don't know if it always lands, but it fully is my intention and hope that it does. But sometimes a culture can be one that doesn't listen. So that may contribute to the raised voices and the sharp elbows, right? And the clenched fist. So I would say, while you're, analyzing yourself and assessing yourself as a body, look at all of it, right? The whole point of these Robert's rules and this parliamentary and all this stuff is that I'm sure people just got into a room and yelled at each other and nothing got accomplished. So like, okay, well, let's write down some rules so we can hear each other. And because people are super complex, the book is 500 pages. When it should just be, 1 page. Like, don't yell at me, right? But, whatever. you know, it's well-intentioned, right? It just goes on and on. But at the end of the day, all those words are just trying to make it so that when one person is speaking, the other person can hear them and understand them. And then that third person, irrespective of the power they walked into the room with, still has the power to participate in that conversation. And that's what we should be defending. You know, I acknowledge and appreciate the constant, you know, want for order in the meetings. My only hesitation is falling into so much bureaucracy that no work can be done. And I don't say that to cut off someone's motivation or work that they've done to prepare us for these conversations. I only say that because the whole point is not parliamentary procedure. The point is community board of government, right? And if we're spending 45 minutes, an hour and a half, 2 hours, because listen, you get enough of these Robert's Rules people in the room, you're there all night, right? And then nothing ever happens. And then you leave, like you watch Senate hearings, nonsense, right? And you're like, what are they even voting on? So you forget, it's impossible. And we have the good fortune of being able to just speak clearly. And so long as we're being orderly and we're understanding each other, I'm sorry for, you know, repeating myself, but so long as we're being orderly and respectful, then we can focus on, well, just who is Pentola, and, you know, why should she be honored over here, and, you know, that kind of thing, you know? Thanks, Azir.
All right, thank you. With that segue, please review this and we'll go over it next month. Yes, Jason. Oh, sorry, Mr. Hand.
I just wanted to say respectfully that when I joined the board, it was extremely hostile and very uncomfortable. Day one. And that leadership, and we had, I think it was the first all-female executive. I just remember that being a big thing. It was all-female executive leadership. No pun intended, with all due respect. My point is I experienced that. And I didn't understand it, right? And I think that what I am concerned about is the innocent, is the new members, is the people that are monitoring us getting caught up with our rhetoric. It's like no different than watching a WWF match where you think these people hate each other and then behind the scenes we're all hanging out. And that's the point, right? Like I made to begin with. In over a year, I have not socialized with anybody on this board, where for the last 8 years, all we did was go out, right? Right? So, and that to me is fruits of the labor, because there is a social aspect to us that is, you know, you're beings. I'm not a machine. I don't come here just to slave. I come here to serve. And I come here to cooperate, right? So I think that it's healthy to spend some time with each other outside of the board line, respectfully, right? Don't call me at 2 a.m. asking me about my vote. But maybe set something up where we could meet. I try to do it with land use all the time. Those of you who are part of land use, you know, Adem's a sweetheart. I'll bring pizza, we eat, we'll go talk after. I just see that element missing. And I noticed it in my last month's land use meeting, where I stand behind my meetings, specifically to speak to members, just to be open for a member. And literally, I want to say since probably February, meeting ends, everyone's gone. Not even a goodbye. And the point, I'm not making it about culture and anything of that. It just goes back to nobody cares how much, and this is something we say in ministry, you know, no one cares how much I know until they know how much I care. And I think that that's what happens. I've seen it. I watched the videos. It's like people are misunderstanding each other. And with all due respect, you know, in my favor says seek to understand as opposed to being understood. I think that the differences of opinions are healthy as much as the rules are good, but the rules were made by man, right? The rules didn't make men or women or humans, or whatever word that suits you. My point is, you know, you only need this when this breaks. And if this is breaking, this is not gonna fix it. I don't care how much schedules and, we just had a 3 months ago, you had an entire training from some guy for parliamentary procedure. I've been saying for 2 years that this new borough president, where's the training for parliamentary procedure? And I'm not talking about your YouTube training, I'm talking about open the door, City Hall, let different boards come together, different strokes, different folks, and we grow together. But if I'm in a silo, or I'm isolated, or I have an agenda, yeah, when we come here, it's gonna be a competitive argument, AKA, face fight. And that is a waste of time, to be honest with you. And I'm not here to fix Community Board 11 for the membership. I'm here to fix the district and to serve our constituents. And with all due respect, for the last 4 months, we have not done that as a leadership group of this body. And we got to change that. Paper's not going to change it. It's just my thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on. Review and vote on a request for proposed Antonio Bento Highway Street co-naming of the Southeast corner 97th Street and Lexington Avenue, 50 Millones.
Okay, so, first I just wanna also. No.
The 2/3 is Debbie's fault, but.
First thing first, I forgot to add that June 28th, we're having the celebration in Art Park for the 40th anniversary of the installation of the sculpture that's there. So that's June 28th. So, my name is Debbie Quinones, I'm with the Boricua Initiative, and I just want to share with you who Antonia Pentojas is. Dr. Antonia Pentojas was born on September 13th, 1922 in San Juan, Puerto Rico. She earned her teaching degree from the University of Puerto Rico with the help of wealthy neighbors because her family was impoverished and they used to be laundry and tobacco workers. That's how they made their living. When she arrived in New York in 1944, she had an apartment here in El Barrio on 150 East 97th Street. She took a job as a wartime welder in a factory that made children's lamps, and she also organized the workers at her shop. While the city was at war, the economy was being rewired to accompany and accommodate to contribute to the effort of the war against the Axis, because it was World War II, right? Puerto Ricans were on the cusp of massive change. In a few years, it was the arrival of the largest migration of Puerto Ricans from the island. And that's when she realized that the growing Puerto Rican community here in El Barrio was facing deep poverty, structural racism, discrimination, systematic violence, the disruption of the traditional family nucleus among families that were coming from the island, growing prejudice, inhuman housing conditions, rising rates of school dropouts, drug addiction, and many other problems that plagued these new arrivals. She felt that she had a calling to fight for these people, and she was a formidable figure in the historical development of the Puerto Rican community here in El Barrio, in New York, in Puerto Rico, and in California. She was a Black, queer Puerto Rican educator, social worker, where she established groundbreaking institutions here in New York, California, and in Puerto Rico. That included the Hispanic Young Adults Association, ASPIDA, focused on educating and providing leadership opportunities for Puerto Rican youth, opening chapters in states and in Puerto Rico. It championed a lawsuit against the New York City Board of Education that demanded bilingual education here in the city. The result was a landmark piece of legislation in the bilingual education movement for which Pentojas led the way. She founded the Puerto Rican Association of Community Affairs, PRACA, in 1970. She also went to Washington, where she founded the Research and Resource Center in Washington, D.C. That was the result of the development of Boricua College up in the Bronx. She obtained a scholarship to study at Hunter College, and she got her master's. Later, she received her PhD. Her academic work centered around experimental higher education here in the United States. Her personal work revolved around the educational access of disadvantaged and community self-determination. Pentojas' lifelong mission was to empower community members to speak for themselves, enhance civil rights and educational opportunities to promote positive imagery and self-love of Puerto Ricans here in the United States. The cultural awakening was occurring here in East Harlem. That was the New Eurekan movement that took root in the 1970s, which proudly expressed Puerto Rican urban migrant experience through artistic expression. So Diane Boricua was part about that. 55 years that they've been working and serving the community. But that artistic expression is firmly rooted and ever more militant from the work that she did. The New York cultural renaissance spread the influence of Bentoja's organizing work around self-determination and identity. The work was complex, nuanced, and sensitive to the needs of people. Over time, she became more and more aware of the complex dynamics of her race, and she began to openly identify her Afro-Caribbean identity, her own queer identity. And this was hard because back then, there was a lot going on. So all this to say was that she was a courageous visionary that lived here in El Barrio, that has influenced many, many lives. And in 1978, she moved to San Diego where she started another program over there. She met Dr. Wilhelmina Perry, who was her partner for 35 years. And it's because of her I'm here, because she's 91 years old. They shared a relationship for 30 years, and she asked if I would do this for her. Would I name Coning the street on 97th Street, where they actually kind of met and lived together. She went to Puerto Rico, she came back. So in 1996, President Clinton recognized her efforts and dedication by awarding her the Medal of Freedom. She was the first Latina ever to receive that award. In 2000, she died at the age of 80. But after her death, her longtime partner, Dr. Wilhelmina Perry, celebrated their relationship as a form of LGBTQ activism. So we have a story here in El Barrio that we want to celebrate. She has been instrumental. Aspira still continues today. Yes. There's even a school named after her. There's also another program named out in Washington. So I think that the fact is that she was also identified as one of the 70 most influential people here in New York. And this is from the permanent collection from the Museum of the City of New York. So we want to take that out of the museum and we want to put it in the street so that when people come and walk down the street, they look up and they will see her name. So I'm asking the indulgence of this committee to support this request. I have went out and I collected the signatures, the additional signatures that were requested by the Safety and Transportation Committee. And I'm hoping that we can get this passed because Dr. Wilhelmina is 91 now. And I feel that there's a sense of urgency that I just want to complete this task so that she can breathe and be happy and celebrate the life that she had with this woman. So that's my presentation. Any questions?
I feel like I
Michelle
and then Nilsa.
I just wanted to say thank you for your presentation. I saw Debbie on the street Saturday and Sunday collecting signatures. And she came and hung out in the community garden afterwards, also talking about this woman. So it's more of a passion and hearing the story over and over again and how many people that she spoke to, raising that history. And I think that's also very important.
Mhm.
Is all the paperwork in?
Yes.
Everything is accounted for?
Yep, everything.
That's what I want.
And
Thank you.
So then can you mention that the reason you're here now is because, in June, the city council stops
Right,
and there's
yes,
a time.
I'm hoping that I can get, the hope is to get this into city council by June with the support of the community board so that then we can move forward and I can, over the summer, give the date to sanitation so that then in September, it'll be her 102nd birthday. We will celebrate her on that, in September, celebrate her birthday, show the documentary at Art Space and have people just tell the story of Tony and how she influenced and impacted them.
Okay, and Diane is working on this.
Yes. Yes, Diane's working on it as
I
well.
had a question and a motion.
Sure.
Okay, let me get through
Just the questions first. Have you received any pushback at all about this?
Any what?
Any pushback at all about the street
No.
game and everyone is all on?
No, not at all.
Yes.
There's no pushback.
Yeah. I wanted, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me get through the questions real quick and Jason.
I have two questions, one for Debbie and then for the group. Debbie, what did she do specifically for East Harlem? I may have missed that when I was in the
For
back.
East Harlem, she
created Aspira. She worked with social workers here. She helped train social workers to work with Latinos here in El Barrio. She lived on 197th Street. She lived on 110th Street. She worked with teachers and organizers where she inspired women like Antonetti from the Bronx in housing. She was also involved with the development of identifying housing with people here in El Barrio in terms of like the abuses that were occurring, because back then, remember, we were the first ones that came here and we faced a lot of discrimination, so she was a champion against that. Does that answer your question?
Not really, but yeah.
What do you
I
mean, not
guess.
really?
You
She
gave
did
me
housing, she
information.
worked with social workers, she
Yeah, I gotta do
educated
some more
people.
research. I was just interested, that was it.
Okay, if you want to do
Thank
more
you.
research, you can look it up right now because she's.
Yeah, I definitely will, not through Google, obviously, but I'll definitely look it up. And then for the body, because I remember last year there was an issue with public safety and the co-naming. What's the difference and why didn't this stay at?
It's here because I presented to the
No,
committee.
that's a separate issue.
Oh, okay, sorry.
The issue with that one is, the person that came for the street co-naming
For his mother,
for his mother.
yeah.
But there was no one, first there was some crazy tension in that building in the corner where some people were opposed to it, outright opposed to it.
Okay.
And the other part was that, you know, we always, as per the city council, we're instructed to look for like someone who did something for the community, who established something, who, you know, it has to be, so the street co-naming should be something of an elevated situation, right, for someone that did some things.
Well, city council, the way the city council can reject it.
I'm sure his mother was lovely. I have a lovely mother, but it's just like, you can't rename every street for everyone's mom. There's not enough streets.
Yeah, so the difference was, you asked a question about why this is here, is because the council member said that she would put it on.
Councilmember,
Yes, correct, so that's why it's here at the executive, because Debbie had most, I think, of the signature, no, half the signatures you had to go get back.
Right.
So which is why she did that, and this is why we're consulting and speaking with Angel and Michelle, that it was brought here. Yes,
And I suggested that she bring it here as well.
yeah, for the time sensitive, yes, Angel.
Right, and the thing is that city council, after this, it goes to
Just
city
turn to
council.
speakers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just, Angel had his hand up.
You should know it.
Go ahead, Angel.
So there's 2 times a year when the council considers street co-namings. The deadline was about to be missed, and actually the council member's deadline to get all the submissions from has been missed, but she's willing to entertain it if we can squeeze it in, like it's, so we asked if we got it to you by Friday, would you take it? And she's like, yeah. So that's why it's here. Otherwise, it would have done our regular public safety route. And it would have, gotten approved or whatever, but then wouldn't have been voted on at council until the fall. So if you'll indulge me, just a moment, in the time that I've been here, I've learned a ton of stuff. And the stuff that really gets me going is the stuff that reminds me of my dad and what it was to grow up with him. And that's why I do this work. Is because he was he still is. He's just not outside. A very active person for his community, our Dominican community. So when I hear our predecessors whose shoulders we stand on and learn the lessons from, and we're welcoming, and we learned lessons from that we built on as we were building our community in Upper Manhattan, it touches me. For that personal reason, but then hearing the stories of all these local heroes, right? Like people that when there was nothing available, were fighting to get something. So that we even have community boards at all is because of people like that, right? That at some point the city government came to recognize under Lindsay, right? That this is a good thing to hear from communities, give communities a voice to participate in the future of their communities in any number of ways. And that's a result of people like Dr. Pantoja and many others that we've learned, that I've learned about sitting at this table with you all for all these years, right? So many wonderful local people, not some knucklehead that came from somewhere else, and that's fine. They could be honored somewhere else. I really enjoy the local person, the person that was born here, the fucking Debbie Quinones, right? The Francis Mastrota, like just monsters, right? And they're just regular old people. They just keep going, keep going, keep going. Just on street code namings alone, the education that Debbie has offered us. Just on that, besides her other work, right? Just on street code namings. Like, I wouldn't know any of this stuff. And for a community that's concerned with erasure, because the community's been here for so very long and through its success has been able to go elsewhere. So that contributes to the erasure, where it used to be 100% Puerto Rican on this block, now it's 20%. Because half of them got forced out, the other half moved away because they wanted to. And there's a concern because there's a love for where you grew up, even though it's just bricks. But they're your bricks, they're your cracks in the ground. So to be memorializing all of these people, and more importantly, all of this history and all of the struggle, it just touches me every single time, right? When it's, what's the gentleman whose son works at the Museo del Barrio, and every time I see him,
Willie Soto.
the smile on his face, and I remember him coming, being all nervous, and presenting to the Willie Soto, and the committee's like, who the hell is Willie Soto? Nobody knew who it was, and then after you hear the whole story, I'm like, dude, you're not even in this building if it wasn't for this guy. And those kinds of things that just touch me every single time. And then, to get Medal of Freedom, that's icing on the cake. But just the local impact, also the Maristani folks around the corner. I'm like, come on, like everybody's growing up on it, right? Like, Nilsa was jumping out of her chair when they were talking about that. So thank you for indulging me. I love this kind of stuff, and I love it for personal reasons, but I also love it even more for the community. Each time I see one of those signs, I'm like, oh yeah, Debbie told us about this. Oh yeah, Debbie told us about that. And it's dope because then you bring your kid and your kid's like, oh, who the hell is this person? And you could tell them, Marina Ortiz with East Harlem Preservation does a really great job of documenting all these street corners. So if you're ever interested in learning the history of all these people, she does a great page, and she does tours.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ashley, you had a question?
No, it's more like
Maureen?
just reemphasizing a little bit, I'll make it quick.
Yeah.
Just also,
I can't hear you, Ashley.
We can't.
Sorry.
Go on.
the schools, they do walk the kids around, they do like these community walks and stuff like that, and the kids look up the people who the signs are. So I think it's just very important for kids who they don't necessarily feel like they see certain things represented within the area. I think it's very important, especially for this specific woman, to have her name up there, because you never know what someone has or hasn't seen and what will open their eyes to what they haven't been exposed to.
How's that?
Can I make a motion?
I think Isaac.
I was
gonna
second.
make a motion
Is
to,
fine for it.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
motion to support the request for proposed Dr. Antonio Ponce, please. Pantoja, yes, with the J aside. Pantoja Way, co-naming street at southeast corner of 97th Street in Lexington.
Isaac Scott has moved to vote on the request for proposed Dr. Antonia Pantoja Way Street co-naming at the southeast corner of 97th Street. Is there a second?
My hand is up second.
Asher seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
My street
Tracy Villanueva abstains.
And my street renaming.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you.
Thank you for championing her story.
So you need the QR.
I'll try to.
Yeah, QR code is the plan, hopefully to get that done.
Oh damn, why you keep changing your background?
I figured I'd make it tranquil for everybody. Space looked weird though.
You all commenting.
Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to distract. I was just,
All right, I'll try to get us out of here pretty quickly, so. Famous last words.
This way.
Full board, Rose is not here, Environment, Open Space and Parks, we have a lot of action items, most of
Thanks
them
again.
thank you so much, are dealing with licenses and permits, so I'm gonna have Addend cover bylaws, housing, and licenses and permits. In that order, please.
Oh,
You don't need to read all of the items, just whether.
Oh,
just follow them.
I'm not going to do that. So I'll just do licenses quickly. It was standard meeting. There was nothing really out of the ordinary. You'll hear it all at full board, so, and it's all there, so no need for me to talk about it more than that. Look, okay. Is anyone raising? No, no hands. Okay.
Sorry, I was just, sorry.
No, it's
Jason has a
okay.
question.
All right.
My comment is really fast.
Okay, so
After
I'll
the-
go, okay. All right, so
Go
I'll
on,
go,
Nick.
yeah, I'll go to housing. Hope Community, they had come the month before to just kind of share their violations, statuses, and tell us what they do to work on those. At that time, they had mentioned needing a letter of support for their Hope Preservation Project on Lexington Avenue. They needed a letter of support to Councilmember Salam to get an Article, I believe, 11 exemption that would give them, I'm sorry, Article 11 tax exemption that would give them 40 years of a tax break or whatever for 100% of the affordable units. There's, I think, I can send it to whoever wants to see it, what's involved in that rehab. And that was approved by the committee. Then we just reviewed my, East River Houses walkthrough, which was pretty standard. They had a lot of work going on there. It was good work. They were getting their boilers done, redone, putting new boilers in, repointing the buildings. There was one point of concern. There have been some assaults and I believe robberies. I don't want to get too specific, but that's what I was told. When you come off the 102nd Street footbridge and you turn that corner to start to go west, I did send that information and I even like marked it on a Google map and I sent it to our public safety chair. So I just hope that's something that gets looked into. I think that was the major thing we took away from that walkthrough. While this isn't on our agenda, we also had a walkthrough recently of Gaylord White Houses. They're in the PACT program now. Actually, it worked out really well because Ascendant is handling that, and we actually have Ascendant finally coming to our housing committee meeting in June. So we went in, we saw one of the model apartments, kind of like what it's going to look like. So overall, the apartment was nice. There was a concern about the bathtubs not really being done right for seniors, so we're looking to have walk-in showers. There was this claim that it would only happen if there was a medical reason, and we felt that just, being a senior citizen was enough of a reason that you should be able to have a walk-in shower. There was a major issue with the elevators as they are. There's like one button. There's not even an up or down button. We went to the top of the building and it probably took like 20 minutes to get to the lobby. This has been something that's come up at land use when we were doing the Carmen Villegas houses. There was a concern with how the elevators would work there in case of a medical emergencies to get seniors out in time. So while it wasn't made clear, we're hoping that I sent all these questions to Chris Cirillo already, but we asked that, what's the situation with the elevators? There's a lower roof and a higher roof. The lower roof had a tremendous amount of hypodermic needles that apparently are being thrown on there from neighboring buildings. It's a beautiful space that the seniors can use, but I don't think it's safe right now. So that's another thing to consider. And there were a couple of other questions. I've also been following up with all our state electeds regarding the senior citizen housing exemption program to give them the tax relief that we voted on I think it was a month or two ago. One of them sent me a bunch of stuff, but as I combed through it, it all seemed great, but it didn't actually address anything that I had asked about. So I'll be following up on that again, just to see where it's going, eventually. And then I guess I guess I'll move on to bylaws now. So that's the end of housing. We'll go to bylaws. We had our first bylaw committee meeting. It was a good meeting. It was introductory. Me and Kenneth agreed that since I'm on the executive committee, I would speak about it here, and then he would speak about it at full board. He's volunteered to do the minutes as well for this past month's meeting. We didn't take any position on amendments. We have, circulated Jessica, well, let me say Jessica Elliott's, just so we're clear, initial proposals. I think the committee agrees that a lot of them are good. I was hoping that we could kind of go through some of the easier ones at that first meeting. I think me and Kenneth, just full disclosure, like we went to assistant treasurer and assistant secretary, kind of like the proposal to remove those positions. I'll speak more personally now. I found it interesting that, and I'll lead into why I'm saying this, that those were such contentious items because we've had those positions vacant for a long time, and I haven't seen any call for a special election for either of them. So if people are so concerned about that, I would have expected them to do that. That's just me speaking as a member. We haven't even had a treasurer position. Angel does a lot of the work that an assistant secretary and assistant treasurer would do, and he says that he doesn't feel those positions are necessary. So I don't know why we wouldn't just take his word for that. And I'll lead into, so me, Kenneth, and Angel had a very productive meeting following our first meeting. One of the things we spoke about is, how do we get these amended? How do we get these proposals to get a vote? There was we've talked about like a decorum within meetings. There's going to be a lot of amendments, right? Proposals, potential things. So to avoid crosstalk, Kenneth had a great idea that we just give everybody an opportunity. We go around the table. You have 1 to 2 minutes to state your point. Once we go around, we see if a motion on amendments being made, and we go from there. But we won't be getting into all-out debates. Otherwise, I don't think, we'll be able to get much done. The two, I think, pressing issues that we agreed on in that meeting was, it's the last page of the bylaws currently. I believe it's Article 9 amendments is the header of that, and it's Section A. Currently, and Angel already said that we should just strike the 2/3, I guess. So if that's agreed on, it would just be a majority vote of that moving forward. But right now, a copy of proposed amendments has to be provided to all members, and they have to get a written confirmation that has to be sent to them 50 days prior. We're hoping to propose to and see if the committee will amend it to be 30 days. It would fall in our cycle of our monthly meetings and all of that, and the 50 days, I think it was just agreed on that it seemed to be too long, but obviously, and we have pressing matters that we hope. So then we sent out the Google Doc. We've gotten good comments. I wish, more people were participating. We've been following up with that. We asked specific themes about which members would be interested in. We've gotten a couple of recommendations. So I believe we're going to give those who responded what they wanted, and we'll kind of fill in then the rest of the people where, we think they might excel. But to just be more focused in the June meeting, it'll be June 2nd. We're going to really focus on the elections process because that seems to be the most time-sensitive, pressing matter. I'm not going to get into the specifics of that. I think we'll figure out what we think needs to be decided there. But and I have to say too, I see there's an item after we do this about a July meeting. Well, I just asked, and I know we all have different schedules, but I asked that July meeting either be late enough in July or be considered for early August, because if we have that meeting too early, then these proposals will not have enough time to go to full board and have their 50 days. And I just think we need to start to move forward and not stall things out. So I just ask that that be taken into consideration if we're discussing summer meeting. And I'll leave it at that. Sorry, that was a lot, but thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Human Services didn't have.
No, we did not have.
You made your announcement. Thank you. Youth and Education.
Sorry, I'm a little scatterbrained right now. So we had a very long meeting because we didn't have quorum the previous month. We invited everyone who couldn't present the previous month to this month's meeting, but honestly, only one person showed up out of the 3 that we have for previous months. So that just shows when we don't have quorum, that's how you end up losing people and interest. But we had a presentation from New York City Kids Fest, which is a performing arts festival, and their East Harlem. It's a 3-day festival, but their East Harlem location of it is at Marcus Garvey, and that's June 13th. We also had, street scholars score.
Yeah, street scholars.
Yeah, street scholars, I'm sorry, I'm like,
No, you good. That
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Street Scholars Corps,
Yeah.
requesting assistance, and they were just basically trying to figure out how to get private fund, like just asking where could they apply for funding, like what grants, they weren't asking necessarily for like support. It was very much, I'm pretty sure it was like either formerly foster care youth or formerly incarcerated youth get, specifically, I think it was girls get their, beauty licenses. But it costs a lot to run a program like that. So she was looking for either spaces to hold workshops with girls or like how she could get funding and stuff like that. Then we had a follow-up conversation from a few months ago on One Green Apple, which the committee has mixed opinions about. So we tabled it to next month. It's basically One Green Apple is like one of those I don't know how to like describe it, like the apps that like parents and teachers communicate with each other. And some concerns that were brought up was, it was kind of like a rating system. I'm only quoting what the committee said. This is not my own opinion. There's like, it's like a rating system, like comparing your child to the rest of the class. Like parents can put in their expectations for their child and also just like a concern about how that adds some of the like data entry aspects of it. It like puts extra work on teachers and stuff like that. And we couldn't really find, like he wouldn't really give us much data in terms of, he said he did a pilot program, but then it wasn't really, and it also just seemed really expensive. Like the cost per child it seemed the main concern that people had is it's very similar to what we have now. So there's no reason to switch apps over, is what people felt, if there's, yeah. It was like, I think like 6,000 for a school, like 12, like, it was like $12 per student, if every single student in the school, yeah.
So can I just ask that, Fatima, who presented from Street Scholars Corps, she'll be at the,
Human Services.
no, she'll be at the event on Saturday, and she'll be doing like a quick, like 10, 15-minute hairstyles for people. So she'll be.
Yes, you had the one that she did, right?
Oh my God.
We got two barbers out there too.
Hold up, yeah,
One
Russ
next
started a
time.
motion. Russell Schuler made a motion to co-sponsor the
Oh, yeah.
Community Art and Wellness Day, further providing additional committee funds, basically giving the funds to Isaac's event that's happening on Saturday. And it passed with one present not voting.
It's a community.
Yeah. Community Arts and Wellness Day.
Land use.
Informational purposes, we did the MTA transit easement, ULUP action or pre-ULUP action discussion, which was awesome. I believe that they submitted on May 19th. We met on the 15th, so I believe it's in process, correct? If I'm wrong?
It should have certified on Monday. We haven't gotten the referral yet.
So which is irrelevant, right? What's relevant probably more, I actually would love for them to push it off, because the more time it takes, more time we get to review. But that's a flag to all members. There's a lot of concern about what's happening. You're pretty much getting, if anybody's familiar with Fulton Street, you're gonna get to Fulton Street on 125th Street, and then a tower of 30 to 40 stories is going up. And 600 plus units, out of all those 600 units, there's 100 being talked about affordable. Those are the flags. There are a lot of positives. I gave you the cons, so let's not, you can waste your time chasing that. Where the committee's already gonna, I told them day one, jobs, workforce development, and most importantly, housing, right? We want more than the what was provided, but they've taken everything into consideration. So that's a flag to all the chairs, because I told MTA that I would grandstand a little bit about that, so that way you guys, you all individuals can opine and coordinate with your fellow committee members and cross-collaborate to your land use committee, so that way we don't have too much of an eventful scenario at full board. What I noticed with land use actions that are public, membership, which right, we pay the tax dollar, we tend to want to voice more concern. So MTA being a both private and public entity, I need not tell you, don't necessarily need to follow a lot of those concerns. But they're there. They're proactive. They've been positive. Adem's on my committee, so we'll definitely coordinate the concerns of housing. But I didn't see park stuff. I didn't see safety stuff. I mean, of course, the train is for safety, but those are conversations that I think you should have at your committee. So that way it's a little bit less eventful at full board. It probably won't take away from it, but it's been put on the table. Any questions about that? MTA Transit? And George did some great stuff with questioning, the rezoning as always.
As he does.
And he's amazing. He's our technical guru. And of course, you know, Jessica doesn't fall short from that, or Nilsa for that matter. So our committee is very active. Second issue, which is for, I took it that night, I contacted the previous chair of youth and education, as well as the current chair, right? And ECF's project is at a halt. Simple. Let's not make it complicated. You ask me, we probably stopped it. That's just my own personal 2 cents, right? Because again, public funding project, you start picking and prying, and you ain't got no skin in the game, which is a pretty word for you're not donating any funds or advocating to solve the situation, and then you gripe full board, and it doesn't take much for a developer to say, you know what, I don't want to deal with that. You know, why am I free schools? For, you know, the deal for that job was before me, so I'm not going to get into it. But what makes me always flag it to youth and education, and what is the concerns? If I get, you know, my organization does a lot of events in the district, as you guys are familiar with, and I get approached by all types of personnel that are concerned with that project, particularly for the 3 schools. And I think one of those schools is currently, their home is in question, and they were supposed to move there, right? So it's just time for us to be proactive, not reactive and dramatic, because Jennifer has been very, very, to me, she's been as active as she can be as a public servant, because she does work for the government. The reality is she needs support. So maybe we could look at local. I'm pretty certain we will reach out to Chris Cirillo and some of the other private developers within the district to try to bring that project back to life. But that's my 2 cents with it. The simple notification for you is the project's at a halt because Avalon Bay pulled out. And when the concerns were brought up to land use and youth and education, the original estimate was $500 million. When she came back, it was at $1.2 billion, right? That's where construction is today. And she was trying to, I don't know her efforts. Again, another thing for SDN as well. SCA was being conversed with to say, hey, the SCA is a tax write-off for the New York State Lottery, right? Where was that? Again, I can't speak to their budget, but we could speak to the politicians that are responsible for that and probably try to move something along. Because if not, we'll go, that lot will drop, Jennifer will be gone, and 40 years from now, they'll get the lot for $1 and build whatever they want. That's my 2 cents for land use.
Thank you, Jason. Public safety and transportation.
Well, we had a packed meeting. We started off with, Debbie's not here, but there were 2 co-naming presentations, one for Perry Thomas Way and the other one for Delcia Pavan Place. And they were both very, as you saw, Debbie gives very great presentations. And they both seemed very worthwhile, and we did not vote on them. They will be voted on in 30 days, in June. We did have the Department of Transportation come once again with the 116th Street corridor. And thank goodness, my vice chair was very proactive in getting information and signatures from the businesses in our district. And oh, guess what? Most of them did not want it. The DOT surprised us with an extra bit of information by saying that they wanted to put a bike lane on Pleasant Avenue. Just Pleasant Avenue, as a way to calm the street down better for pedestrians, a bike lane. There's schools, there's a lot of children walking in that area. To put bike lanes up and down to make it safe for pedestrians, we felt was not the best idea. However, we said we'll look into it and find out what the population thinks specifically. But at this time, we decided as a group, as a committee, to not have that as part of what we felt was best for our constituents, both the bus and the bike lane. We did like the pedestrian, some of the toolkit that they had. The toolkit for daylighting, the way to make things safe. Those were great, except for the actual bus lane and bike lane. And that's why I made that motion and the, yeah. And so we're still holding open conversations with them because why not? It's an important thing. I mean, they might just want to put it in the, anyway, but we want our voices heard.
Just to elaborate a little bit, as Michelle stated, this is very contentious. It came to us like a phasing. We're designing it, and then it became like, we're gonna do this. But, you know, most of the businesses on 116 is our biggest, probably economic sector. Very small businesses. Mind you, full disclosure, my business is there. I own the building, my family, we own the building, own the business. It's probably good for me. I got taxis, you know, less cars, but it's not the point, right? There's a lot of businesses there. I know them all. They all know me. I know that's gonna affect them. Most of that block, people double park, run in, pick it up, go out, run out. This is, you know, DOT came with us with this. The bus goes so slow that a person walking can pass, go faster. I have cameras in front of the building. I'm there more than I am home. So I'm like, when is this happening? Because even in rush hours, it doesn't go that slow. We have great traffic flux. I think the city has a plan to push this along. They did on 96th Street without speaking to us, mind you, without coming to the committee, without coming to this community board. They simply put it in, and now we have tremendous issues there to the point that we need crossbars on 96 and Park and other situations due to a bus depot. Most of these businesses would, you know, I don't think they'd be there more than 6 to 9 months. We also spoke to them about possibly like working with them in regards to like making this bus lane go during rush hours, right?
Mhm.
7 to 9, 4 to 7 kind of situation. They want it 24/7. As you would imagine, the churches where there's a significant amount of churches there, every Sunday that they have double parks, how they would all be, you know, and because now all the buses have pictures, they take a picture, the first ticket is 100, second one's 250, and so on, keeps escalating. So this isn't just about like a $35 ticket, you know, most of these businesses are aware that if this happens, like after $100, you know, these people aren't coming back. We were hoping to speak more to them, but as Michelle said, they're, you know, they're teasing a bunch.
Okay, one last thing.
I did add that the businesses on 97th Street that said that the bus lanes were killing their business have closed down.
And that should have been a few months.
It's just been a few months, yes.
And they closed.
So it was stated that the culture of 116th Street could not survive the bus lanes. And we want to
Commercial
maintain,
corridor.
yes. And then I just wanted to state the other,
95% of them said no. The other ones, just because like Wendy's, Subway, they can't sign, you know, it's not their business, they just work there.
Mhm.
But they were open.
And we did have some, one person, I don't know what her business was, who came in and was very verbal about bus lanes and bike lanes, as well as giving suggestions. And most of her suggestions were basically denied, like increasing the length of the bus or adding more buses to the route. simple things. And they're like, oh no, we have to do some surveys on that. Interesting.
Thank you for that background. So
I just wanted to add one.
the last one, final.
Yes, a traffic light was suggested for 20th Street and Pleasant Avenue. This was raised by Adam and safety utmost. It was also brought up previously by another individual, and so we voted.
For full transparency, we've been bringing this up to the DOT for months now. There's 3 schools in that area.
This one's in Arden.
Is it at the south part of Wagner over there by the Pali?
One's
So there's 3 schools. They put lights on 118 and 119 because they weren't there before. That happened when there was an e-bike that killed a elderly woman a couple of years back. For whatever reason, and we've been asking, they say it doesn't meet metrics, doesn't meet this, stop signs enough. But, and because of that, we decided to, since they're not listening to like open dialogue, and we're doing a motion to make it more.
Yes, question.
I would also suggest, because I work on 120th between First and Pleasant, you need speed bumps there. You have traffic going straight this way, then you have traffic going up First Avenue, and they zip right through. Then you have the Catholic School, PS 206, PS 112. You also have the Acacia Gardens, and you're going to have the new development.
This came from the walkthrough that Dunn did at Wagner,
Mm-hmm.
and we've raised all these issues up, and DOT seems to.
Yes, Michelle.
And DOT denied that because buses there, and they said the bus to go over a speed bump would be dangerous.
The bus doesn't.
But
What bus is there?
The
The
MTA
bus,
uses.
yeah, the bus does not go through down
Empty
120th. Which one?
Empty buses go through there. They get to the bus depot.
Yeah.
They use the Paladitos in the back. There's a bus that goes there.
I've never seen that.
In other words, I did raise it, and
Yeah,
it
I've
was pushed
seen,
down.
I've seen a lot of stuff there, and that's another accident waiting to happen, because you have kids that go off the assessor ride, and they're special needs kids that get service in my Goodwill program in my building.
I will that will go into our, if this is
We
approved.
told them that. We told them,
it will go into our-
I'm not sure, if you're expecting someone, because there needs to be a fatality for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was pushback in the meeting. I attended the meeting, so thank you. I'm gonna echo Deb.
I will Deb have a great agenda, and, on top of Marlene's emails, I have a group chat with all the members. We did not have quorum.
District needs.
We had narrative conversations. Some of you have already been contacted by me, and we are working on contacting the rest of the committees as it relates to the specific policy areas. Policy areas do not align very nicely all the time with our committees. So you may get an email that's addressed to land use, housing, and EcoDev all at the same time. We're not asking necessarily for your committee's top budget request item or like all of your goals or whatever. We're asking for whatever relates of your committee's work to that specific policy area. So hopefully it's clear. Happy to answer any questions. We are not meeting next month, so we are hoping to meet with you all, whether that's a quick phone call or a Zoom meeting or a meeting in person. We want to be mindful of everyone's time, but we also want to set ourselves up with the expectations and understandings of what your committee has done so far this year, what you all are looking forward to as we look ahead to October, and the budget request items, ideally supported by some committee action. So I know it seems like a long way away. It's like 5 months away, but really, we're going to be gone most of the summer. And then when we hit back in September, it's going to be a mad rush for district needs and budget. So the only other thing we talked about was the city agency and elected official outreach based on the budget request responses that we received. We have a list for, I think, basically every city agency and 3 elected officials. So we plan to reach out to them early to let them know that we are going to demand a budget consultation, a district budget consultation meeting, and that we can get scheduled over the summer so that we can come to our September meetings with a clear understanding of why a certain city agency may have said that a request wouldn't be funded, what sort of collaboration we can do with other city agencies, what kind of collaboration can we do with our elected officials, or how might we reword or adjust our requests as we've learned from our communication, especially with the Parks Department. It's a lot easier to get our requests funded when we're on the same page. So I will reach out one by one to those groups. You will be receiving emails about your policy area. Please, if nothing else, just let us know when is a good time to chat, and whether we chat with you and the other committees as noted together or separately. We just want to hear really what you all are working on, so that we're not making stuff up in our narrative.
Thank you. All right, with that, we'll move along. Scheduling date for a full board meeting in July. Angel? Yes, Ashley.
Someone brought up August, and I remember during the bylaws committee, August was brought up. I don't remember
There's 50 days.
July. Like if we, with the 50 days, by the time we get to June, it's not gonna.
I think the need for a July meeting may be due to a Euler.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
My bad.
Just wait for Angel to pull it.
My calendar's not cooperating, give me a second.
So there's a 50-day situation with the bylaws currently. So they want to change that to 30 days or 28 days to match like our moving calendar. So that's why the chair said that if we do a July meeting, to make it late enough so that 50 days.
So we do two bites of the apple.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are, both of those are reasons why we need to have a meeting in July. The third reason being the running reason, which is that we're definitely gonna have street activity permits and liquor license applications as we do every year. Or I'd say that at this point, every year, like this should be a standing meeting. And, I know members give me funny looks, but it's either that or you're waiving review of a number of applications. Given the number of street activities, it's easily gonna be dozens. So that's reason one. Reason two is that we're about to receive a large ULURP for the MTA rezoning on 125th Street and Lexington Avenue. Like as Jason was explaining, it's the old Pathmark site, so part of it is gonna be redeveloped by the MTA. The other part that we saw a proposal for is the remainder of the Pathmark site, which is, we saw a presentation months ago for a 14-story building, but this rezoning is looking at the entire block. So there's a possibility that that proposed 14-story building, that plan gets scrapped if they're, gonna be benefiting from the upzoning there. So you could have two 40-story buildings, 40-story buildings, 400-foot buildings. So it's a major project that we should certainly be taking all of our time to consider and weigh in on. So, if we get, let's say, for example, the referral tomorrow and our clock starts tomorrow, then we would have until the 23rd of July. We have not received it. There's no notation on the city planning website as to when we're gonna receive it. The meeting was just at the planning commission just this past Monday. Typically we get like 10 days later, but that's the practice. So if that's the case, then we're looking at, into next month. So that pushes our 60 days into early August. And then, as was stated earlier, this, ongoing conversation about potentially revising the bylaws, and one consideration, being, timeliness. That's the third reason to have a meeting in late July. So, the week of the 28th of July or the week of the 4th of August is, at this point, until we receive the ULURP, is what I would suggest that, that we look at.
Okay, so if there's no discussion, my recommendation would be that we all put a pin on the 29th and the 5th on that Tuesday, so we stick to the Tuesday schedule if everyone's pleased with that. And we make an announcement at full board to all the members that will potentially be one of those 2 Tuesdays so we can all plan, unless anyone here has an objection to that.
I have an objection for curiosity. When would we establish which of the two?
As soon as the ULO drops,
comes in?
yeah, that's there, what we're waiting for. Any questions? Okay. Next, okay, is board member attendance. Rosa could not be here, had a function. Looking over this, yes,
Before we even start this, can we pull up the spreadsheet? Because every single time, yeah. Not this one,
I know.
the official one we used to track.
Talk amongst yourselves while I look it up. No, maybe a song or something. No,
I haven't done karaoke in a while.
Jason, let's say something.
I'm ready to
Yeah.
adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Just to Asher's point, I think
Why would you do that?
it's confusing reading the document that was sent just because it's inconsistent in the way that it describes absences. Like we're highlighting some people who have 3 absences, and then in some cases we're highlighting people with 4 absences. And just the way that it says, excused or not excused, it just needs a little bit more clarity and structure to be legible, to make it easier on this group.
so maybe printing it in landscape.
And we shouldn't even be using
Or-
2 different documents.
Yes, Angel.
How about the secretary would give us a report once a month?
Yeah, so we do have something from the secretary. Anticipating this conversation, to save my eyes, I just took some notes from this thing earlier today. So I could run through the people that have 5s and 4s.
Yeah.
So for full board, there are none currently. For the budget committee, Don Sanders has 5 missed. I can do that as well, Ashley, if you like, but I'm trying to run through these. For the economic development committee, Vinnie Torres has 5 and Jason Wu has 4. For the parks committee, Samantha Pedrero has 4. For the executive committee, Jason Villanueva has 4. For the housing committee, Jason Wu has 4. So together with that and Echo, he's subject to removal. Licenses Permits Committee, Nye has 4. For the Public Safety Committee, Jose has 6. Carlos has 4. And Christina has 4.
6.
Just a point of information, Angel, I believe we tabled, not that I take pleasure at all, is that Jen Mayer, she was supposed to be brought up as well for full board meetings?
Go back to it.
Well, Jen was at the full board the last one.
Yeah, she was at that one, but I
Yeah.
can't recall whether she was at 4 or whatnot. I just remember that.
Hold on a second, I think you're right, so let me just go back to it. So, okay, so this is the full board sheet, Judith is gone.
Maya's 34.
Jennifer has 4, missed full board meetings.
So Jason Wu.
But that's 4 before the last one, because she did come to the last one.
Yeah,
So do a race,
that's-
do these erase and you come back?
No,
No.
that's through April, so we haven't had the May meeting.
We chose not to take action due to
To the year.
reasons.
Okay.
Not, like I said, I have the pleasure.
No, that's it, yeah, just Jen Meyer.
So Jen and then Jason will be the only 2.
Jason Wu for committees. So it's Jason Wu for the Economic Development Committee and the Housing Committee. And he has 4 missed on each.
All right. Members? Yes, Asher.
What is he at for a full board? I know we're not taking process on him, but just to see a pattern. 2, okay.
So members.
What's the question we're having now?
So I don't have it.
It's on whether or not
I think we should
we're
bring them up.
initiating removal. Proceedings.
Yeah, I think we should bring them up. I don't think we should remove, but they should be brought up and have a conversation.
I'm sorry, did I interject? I do know we just count absences. Is any of them excused? Does that matter? If it doesn't?
It's
okay.
It plays a part during the deliberation when they come.
Okay, so this is just a motion to start the
Initial
process.
process, so
So
we
yeah,
can
get it
an
out the way so
explanation.
you go home. Whoever's,
Can we
Hold on, crosstalk, guys, just please. Thank you, Angel.
I had the floor.
You have the floor, I'm waiting. You done?
I had it.
Oh, okay. So Jason Wu for Economic Development, has 4 total, 2 excused, 2 absent. And then his other thing is housing. He has. Thank God, it's a different committee.
So the 3 there. So that's Dawn.
I wrote Jason, I meant Dawn, I'm very sorry.
We're not discussing.
So it's Dawn.
bring him up, he would have to have
has-
both
Dawn has 2 committees, Dawn has budget and housing.
Okay.
So then it's just Justice.
No, it's okay, I like
Thank God I didn't
the
text him.
excuse was solid.
Hold on, crosstalk, guys.
So Dawn for district needs has 4 absent, and for housing has 4 absent.
Okay, Asher?
So for my same question as before, can we see just as like pattern wise, can we check?
Full board?
Yes.
One,
She has a disability.
Two.
form.
two, 1 excused, 1 absent.
Okay. And can I say a follow-up?
Yes, a follow-up question, and then Michelle. and
More like
Jess.
a comment. I think just because we have been saying that we're gonna stick to procedure, like we said before, call-in isn't necessarily removal, but we should be calling people in if they meet that threshold, have that conversation, and then we'll determine from there where we go. But yeah.
Michelle and then Jess.
I'm just curious, because Dawn is on 3 committees, correct?
Correct. Jess, your question?
Just a point of clarification, I guess, that, we had district needs and budget last night. And I knew in advance that Derek was not going to be present. He let me know in advance. There was no, contact, and we're a very small committee. If any other person had additionally been absent, we would not have had quorum. But, there was no, just for clarity, there was no outreach to me that that Dawn would not attend.
Okay. All right, so I will entertain if we're going to initiate a process of both individuals, yes, Asher.
It's just Dawn, correct?
No.
No,
And
just
Jen.
come
Jen.
back.
Oh, Jen.
So,
Jennifer?
I don't even ask about, can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Forgive me if we had this conversation already, but if a person has, okay, we postponed bringing her in because she was in the middle of that, but then she did come to the next meeting, which is where, is she, does she have these absences on more than one committee?
Jennifer Meyer?
Yeah.
Jennifer Meyer is only on the list for full board.
Only for full board, so do we need to bring her? She came to the last full board. I guess that's what I'm wondering.
You're consistent. But it doesn't mean, again, this is not something we take about, it's just to hear and then.
Yeah, I just don't want to ask her why she was not here, because we know, she let us know, she emailed everyone, and she had a death in the family.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, you had your hand up.
Well, I've spoken already, so go ahead.
The question is, excusals. You probably said it, Angel, out of her 4, does she have any excused?
The 4 of them are absent.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Yes.
I guess I just don't understand why it would be considered an absence. I think when looking at the bylaws and changing what an excused absence means, the strict interpretation is one of 4 things, and it's very strict, and one of those 4 things is death in the immediate family. So I just, she should have been excused. And I don't know when it happened necessarily, but if my dad passed away, I'd be gone for months.
Yeah.
So it should have been marked, so that should have been marked as excused in March. March, it should have been excused, because the other 3 are absences.
Yes, because you're right.
I have a question. because
Yes, Asher.
I remember in January, she was dealing with, she had to go over there because he was really sick. Does that count as an excuse or no?
Should we go in a business session?
I don't feel.
Because I think I'm not.
We're about to start.
I think we're getting into a gray area, but I think part of the purpose of the proceedings is to then have that conversation and in executive session so that we can be respectful about that.
Alright.
So I think that would include So, yeah.
Motion to move into executive session.
No, I mean, like,
Oh,
when we bring them in.
When we bring, well, can we,
Yeah.
well, then, I
The
got to
question
the
is if
point
we
that,
bring them in or not. That's the only
Yeah.
question. Like, we don't have to discuss her. I think we're going too
Yeah,
far.
I
Did
agree.
remember?
Again,
Yeah,
the
that's
simple
the
question
purpose.
is
Just
this,
follow
can we
procedure,
give
bring her
excuse?
in.
Everyone, the crosstalk, the part of the purpose of the procedure is to check in with them and then render a decision. That's it. We have in the past said because people have had bereavement, been dealing with sick children or a parent, and taken that into consideration and kept them on the board. And we have not recommended an action, so we have done that as a precedent. So that we would be in keeping with the custom that we've observed. So, yes, Isaac.
yeah, I just don't see the point in us bringing her in. And I'm just wondering, do we have to do that on that particular one, especially since we're not gonna hear anything different from what was already told us? And I think the process in and of itself for that person may be uncomfortable. To have to come before us to explain in person, which we've already put in writing.
Jason?
Yeah, so that's.
I respectfully agree with my colleague. There's too much ambiguity for that one individual, there's not for the other one. We could table it, do our homework, our secretary, and make sure that maybe that error in the attendance might need to be rectified with the excusal, and let's deal with the other individual that you just have straight absences. That's my recommendation to the floor. You can move how you want.
Asher?
Can I make a motion for Dawn?
You
If
can.
anyone's, okay. Motion to start the removal hearing procedures for Dawn Sanders.
Okay, Asher Rodriguez made a motion to initiate the removal procedures for our bylaws, correct?
Yeah, per bylaws.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
Isaac Scott seconds it. All right, roll call vote, please.
Jose Altamirano,
Yes.
Dan Brian,
Yes.
Jessica Elliott,
Yes.
Nelson Rama,
Yes.
Asher Rodriguez,
Yes.
Xavier Santiago,
Aye.
Isaac Scott,
Yes.
Jason Villanueva,
Yes.
Michelle Wiltshire Clement,
No.
motion passes. Motion passes.
As with the other member in question, we have brought in members who've gone through similar circumstances. And so if this body is not content to move on the matter, just reminding that like we have brought in other members who were still on this board when they were either in hospital or dealing with bereavement, and they came and explained everything to us. So just reminding us that we be judicial on that. That's all I'm reminding the body in fairness.
So prior to taking a motion, can I make a statement?
Yes.
The point is, there was an error. That's it.
Angel, the point.
This will be the reason I leave this conversation. I feel like Bill Murray. Like, I feel like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
We just talked about this earlier. The rules are the rules. Enforce the rules. If you don't enforce the rules the same way every time, you have confusion, as you have now. Every member's personal information should be respected and kept private. But since you've already spoken about the sensitive part, this member had advised this office in writing that they could not make that meeting because they had work. So they were already absent. That's why I made the error last time. Then there was the unfortunate news about, the loss in her family. So now that gets corrected to excused. It's still missed meetings. The city charter says missed meetings. Missed meetings, nothing else. The process you all created says you bring them in, you have the conversation in confidence with sensitivity. You give the option of participating remotely, sending a note, giving an explanation, all that stuff does not have to be worked out here. But here we are again, working it out here after we just spoke about it in this meeting. Keep to the rules and you avoid confusion. Now, I'm not pointing at you, Xavier. I'm pointing at the table. You have to be consistent, irrespective of who the member is. Irrespective. This body considers this conversation a death sentence, and it isn't. It's a conversation. It isn't. And people get kept on all the time with all kinds of reasons. I think having the other attitude creates a precedent of thinking, or creates the suggestion that this is a body that's acting with ill intent or with malice, when that isn't the case. It's just a body holding its rules. And by holding the rules, you give an example to the rest of the body, that we hold the rules. When you don't hold the rules, and the rest of the body's like, oh, we can do whatever we want, willy-nilly. I go and I speak very glowingly about Debbie Quinones, but if that application was incomplete, I wouldn't have said a word. She wouldn't have been on the agenda, because it would have been incomplete. And that's holding to somebody that I have the utmost respect for, that I value incredibly. I've learned so much from. I consider her a teacher. But if it would have been incomplete, she wouldn't have been at the table, right? That's all, guys. Just keep to the rule.
All right. Yes, Jose.
I mean, you stole my thunder, but I was gonna, we consistently do this going back and forth. And the majority of the time, people stay on. The only time I think we've strictly voted someone off is like last month.
Last month.
Because she said, excuse me, I still have the phone. Because she said that she wasn't gonna be, she travels.
She didn't say that.
But she said she travels.
She said she
That's
wasn't
fine. My understanding from the conversation is that there would be consistent conflict. It would just be, and that's the only reason, because other than that, like, I wouldn't have had an issue. For 95% of the time, we've given everyone like, sure, and we'll try again. And hopefully we can work something on bylaws where it's like the second time this happens within one term, like it's just immediate. I don't know, just something out there. But in regards, like, this is the same conversation. Angel repeated the same thing last time. It's the same, like, where now we're choosing who we do things for, and now you have this favoritism, and it just looks bad on us.
Again, I will entertain a motion at any point. So, but it's up to the body here to make that motion. Yes, Isaac?
I don't disagree with anything Angela, Jose is saying. I think what I'm bringing up is that I'm just thinking, and I'm wrong for this because it is favorite, but I don't want to have a person come in to tell us this about their father passing if they already emailed us about it. And I guess it's the process of them coming in talking about it that I'm worried about. So it wasn't that. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like 10 of us. And it's a difference between sending an email to the chair, then it's like having to come before all of us and have us, you know what I mean? So that's what I was kind of like, But no, I agree with you.
Thank you for expressing that. Michelle and then Asher.
There's some people that share what's happening in their personal lives, and there's some that don't. And personally, that's why the inconsistency, why I voted no, and one not coming in and one coming in, it doesn't make any sense.
I was,
Treat them both the same if they are fitting into that rule.
Asher and then
I'm
yes.
only gonna say something, then I wanna make a motion, but, I only was separating them because there was the back and forth, so I wanted to get one done and then we could discuss the other one. I didn't wanna just like, I didn't wanna throw both of them together and think about problems with it, but.
Let me get Jess's question.
I just wanted to apologize to Jen publicly for bringing up her personal information.
We're not supposed to.
Alright, motion to start the removal process for Jennifer Mayer because she's reached the threshold for full board.
Okay. Asher Rodriguez made the motion. Moves to initiate the removal process for all bylaws, correct? For Jen Mayer. Is there a second? Jose Altamano seconds. Roll call.
Jose Altamirano,
Yes.
Dan Briha,
Yes.
Jessica Elliott,
Yes.
Nelson Rama,
Yes.
Asher Rodriguez,
Yes.
Xavier Santiago,
Yes.
Isaac Scott.
Oh, but in my heart, yes. No. My answer is
No. Jason Villanueva,
No.
Michelle, what's your comment?
Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
the motion carries.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Can I ask, there was other names, I'm sorry.
We have old business. Judith Rivera was not reappointed. She didn't reapply. Alita Chigamoon was not reappointed. We have Under that, we now have 13 new members, which was mentioned earlier in the meeting, which is a sizable lot. And we have our full board meeting, and I look forward to making sure we welcome them warmly and with a productive meeting. So just wanted to close that out there. So that action item is now moved. Any new business? Yes.
I just have an old business. First, I just wanted to say, I think at the very beginning of this meeting, when we talked about the minutes, I think for transparency, just an acknowledgement of the March minutes before moving into the April meeting minutes for clarity would have been helpful. It felt like something that we were just going to skip over. That's why I brought it up. In March, we also noted that there was going to be an elections committee formed.
The committee is, and Nilsa and I had a conversation, and I would like to see an announcement made of full board meeting this idea.
Right,
But
the
we had a
last conversation that we had, you mentioned that you needed to appoint another member. And I told you my concerns. And then you said that we had like a week. And so I don't know where we are. And I don't know, if indeed, if the committee has enough, right, like that person. Just because if this is something that has to move expeditiously, then everyone has to hit the ground running. I would suggest that at the full board meeting, an announcement be made and see if there's any interest in anyone running for a position, technically that they will have to run for again in 4 or 5 months, right? Because whoever gets voted in now, right, let's say if the elections happens and however it happens, they will get voted in and then they're off for the summer. And they come back September, and in September, we're taking names for all the positions, right? Unless there's been changes in our bylaws and they've been ratified and stuff like that. So I think that we need to make it clear that if anybody decides that they're gonna run for assistant treasurer, an assistant secretary, that they're technically gonna hold that only till the end of December. And see who would like to do that, and then have to again, campaign twice.
So the member in question you and I discussed, I'm not going to place on there. There are 3 members who should be able to.
That's fine.
The 3 members, you're just executing the same process done previously. It was you, Isaac, and John Green, and we lost Jordan Wright. The nominating period is no less than, or at least 2 weeks prior to the closing of nominations of the subsequent full board, which would be June, and then that subsequent election would be whenever we call it in the end of July or August.
Okay.
So that's the announcement. So I will try to identify another person, but I will also make it open if anyone wants
If
to
we
volunteer.
can run with the people that we have and those people are willing, then I think that we should not belabor them the point, and we should just move forward. Because this is an established procedure. Now, if something changes in the bylaws, then, how we want it run and, who should run it, then I would think that would be.
Angel, they need at least 3, or is it more on that committee?
I don't remember. I gotta look, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
My head
I
was
just
somewhere
wanted,
else.
we wanted to put an additional one because we lost one, right? It was operated with 4 last time.
Yeah, I'll check.
Okay, so that's the
Just wanted to give you a heads up that it depends on, and I had a question, but.
Down,
and
your
I'll look-
question?
I'll look for your answer.
Yeah.
Before we conclude,
How long have we not had a treasurer for? Just out of curiosity.
since,
2 years.
but no, assistant treasurer and,
No, only
Treasurer.
treasurer. I'm just asking about treasurer.
I think about March is when Stephanie resigned, if I recall correctly, so.
But in terms
Just
of the work.
so follow-up question, and I really don't care either way, but Nilsa, I think you make a good point about like us having to have, this position elected and not elected, and then elected again. There hasn't seemed to have been much interest in running for these positions in the past, but why the sense of urgency to have a special election for a treasurer?
It is the fact that it's part of our bylaws, we're supposed to hold a special whenever there's a vacating of the role.
But we already
Yeah.
haven't done that. So I guess why are we deciding that now it's important to do?
Well, it was announced in March and we were trying to identify people who could serve on it. And the fact is, it's been held open. If no one expressed interest, then it will continue to be held open. I mean, people have to be nominated for it. If no nominations come in, then, you know, our
Well,
bylaws.
but I guess, has anyone expressed interest now that we're calling it? Because they didn't express it then and we didn't call in a special election. So have people now said they're interested?
How do we know if people are interested?
Not directly.
But then why, then we didn't know that in March. So I guess I'm wondering why now are we doing this and we didn't do it in April?
I don't know. We had to
I mean,
find,
yeah, I'm just trying to understand that. That's it. Okay.
we had to find other members to serve, and there was a conversation Nelson and I had in identifying other committee members who want to be on that committee, so they can activate. The process is growth.
Okay.
All right.
I have two quick things if I could.
Yeah.
Just to remind you guys, or just tell you, if you didn't know, since you mentioned the 15 new members, on the 28th, so next Wednesday, we'll be doing an orientation for the new members here at the community board office. If you have nothing else to do, I'd appreciate somebody stopping by and like, look, they exist and we don't kill them.
What time?
6:30. And then on the 3rd, I don't know if I brought this to the board or not, or you told a few people, but on the 3rd, the Municipal Art Society is holding a panel discussion on ULURP under review and giving me the honor of inviting me to be one of the panelists. So that's kind of cool. So the community boards, community boards are under fire, been under fire for, 10 years, and very aggressively under fire now by, each subsequent administration, this one definitely included. There's these conversations about redoing the charter, a lot of conversations about, limiting public participation in all these, processes, affecting communities. So this is a very timely conversation, just in general, but then more specifically with this one. And those guys that don't know the Municipal Art Society, they're a leader in these kinds of conversations. So if you have the time and you can make it, it'd be great. If not, you can watch the video later. I will try to not stutter too much. I'll be speaking on behalf of myself. So, don't say, oh, community board, that's not our position. But I'll be citing the community board a lot. I believe in this community board stuff, and I hope it, I hope it remains, and I hope it continues to be respected.
All right, this is another business, a roll call.
Jose Altamirano.
Yeah.
Adem Brihan.
Here.
Jessica Elliott.
Present.
Nelson Rama.
Present.
Asher Rodriguez.
Present.
Luis Everett Santiago.
Present.
Isaac Scott.
Present.
Jason Villanueva.
Present.
Michelle Wiltshire Clement.
Present.
All right, y'all have a good evening.